The Youth Leadership Debate is a program that provides the platform for young people to use their voices and knowledge to drive conversations for national development. It is an initiative of the Nigeria Youth Futures Fund, NYFF, implemented by Leap Africa in collaboration with the MacArthur Foundation and the Ford Foundation. The 2022 Youth Leadership Debates also aims to give confidence to the voice of young people and leveraging on it as an effective tool to cause a transformed Nigeria. Its goal is to provide capacity building to young people across tertiary institutions and support them to critically evaluate information, advocate from the point of knowledge, and to collectively shape their future of Nigeria. The conversations led on the platform of the Youth Leadership Debate goes on to equip the contestants with needed knowledge to be active citizens leading a change. The NSAS protest of 2020 showed that young people can speak with one voice and cause a change. The Sorosoke movement, which means to speak up in Yoruba language, a ripple effect of young Nigerians' resistance to police brutality through the NSAS protest was an eye-opener for government, the youth, and development agencies. Now, while it is important to encourage young people to Sorosoke, they must be guided to do it the right way. More so, institutions of higher learning have a leading role in providing solutions to the myriad of challenges facing society, cutting-edge research and innovative activities. Universities are places where young people are equipped to engage in intellectual debates that have national relevance and to provide solutions to socio-economic issues. So, Leap Africa, through the Youth Leadership Development Programs, build the capacity of young Nigerians in leadership and active participation in the nation's affairs, helping to shape the country's future for long-term development.
We were often told a lie growing up that we're leaders of tomorrow. And as I went through my 20s, I realized that the people who told me I was a leader were still leading in their 50s, 60s, and 70s, or should we say ruling. So the issues that plague Africa are still the issues that plagued Africa 20 years ago when we started.
Africa as a continent has been known as an emerging market, and you can't separate the opportunities from the young people.
And we can only develop if young people are empowered and equipped to have the space to express their brilliance and passion.
And if you look at the innovations, the new ideas, the creativity, you see that the young people are the ones who are really leading the way.
There are many bright spots, and where you see those bright spots in Africa, they're really linked to effective, committed, and dynamic leadership. Young people are agents of change, and that's the vision we have.
The Youth Leadership Debate is a program that provides the platform for young people to use their voices and knowledge to drive conversations for national development. It is an initiative of the Nigeria Youth Futures Fund, NYFF, implemented by Leap Africa in collaboration with the MacArthur Foundation and the Ford Foundation. The 2022 Youth Leadership Debates also aims to give confidence to the voice of young people and leveraging on it as an effective tool to cause a transformed Nigeria. Its goal is to provide capacity building to young people across tertiary institutions and support them to critically evaluate information, advocate from the point of knowledge, and to collectively shape their future of Nigeria. The conversations led on the platform of the Youth Leadership Debate goes on to equip the contestants with needed knowledge to be active citizens leading a change. The NSAS protest of 2020 showed that young people can speak with one voice and cause a change. The Sorosoke movement, which means to speak up in Yoruba language, a ripple effect of young Nigerians' resistance to police brutality through the NSAS protest was an eye-opener for government, the youth, and development agencies. Now, while it is important to encourage young people to Sorosoke, they must be guided to do it the right way. More so, institutions of higher learning have a leading role in providing.
There's a huge innovation gap on the continent. You have young people who are talented and largely driven by passion, who go into starting enterprises without the requisite skills, knowledge, resources, relationships to be able to take them sustainably.
We couldn't sustain the programs we did. We lacked financial capacity.
It was
just at the point where I was almost going to stop the idea.
The SIP Social Innovators Program was designed so that we can bridge that gap. We can fill that gap of capacity.
Indirectly, when they invested in me as a young person, they've invested in the over 11,000 plus women that we've been able to empower.
We're able to provide relief materials to over 3,000 inmates.
For just the last 3 years, after being a LEAP fellow, we are able to achieve that goal to the highest level I can think about.
Are you tired of feeling like you're not making a difference in your community? Do you want to take action and create a better future for yourself and others? The Leap Africa's advocacy and moral courage courses can help you do just that. Our free advocacy course will guide you on how to participate in critical issues and how you can make a difference. While the e-integrity course on moral courage will equip you with the tools to address corrupt practices within your community. Use coupon code LEAP@20 to access e-integrity at a 30% discount. With our courses, you'll gain the skills and knowledge you need to be a force for positive change. Sign up at learn.leapafrica.org and start your journey towards making a difference today.
Goal we had set for ourselves this year is to hit a minimum of 6,000 volunteers.
We're trying to create a garden where the children buy food, where they eat.
We've planted 300 trees, and a part of these are going to be given out to the community.
I'm happy we've been able to sensitize some girls and boys on the need to fight against gender-based violence.
I want to say a big thank you to Leap Africa for organizing this.
We're giving back to the community, and we're also ensuring that we're keeping the environment for those that come after us.
The Youth Leadership Debate is a program that provides the platform for young people to use their voices and knowledge to drive conversations for national development. It is an initiative of the Nigeria Youth Futures Fund, NYFF, implemented by Leap Africa in collaboration with the MacArthur Foundation and the Ford Foundation. The 2022 Youth Leadership Debates also aims to give confidence to the voice of young people and leveraging on it as an effective tool to cause a transformed Nigeria. Its goal is to provide capacity building to young people across tertiary institutions and support them to critically evaluate information, advocate from the point of knowledge, and to collectively shape their future of Nigeria. The conversations led on the platform of the Youth Leadership Debate goes on to equip the contestants with needed knowledge to be active citizens leading a change. The NSAS protest of 2020 showed that young people can speak with one voice and cause a change. The Sorosoke movement, which means to speak up in Yoruba language, a ripple effect of young Nigerians' resistance to police brutality through the NSAS protest, was an eye-opener for government, the youth, and development agencies. Now, while it is important to encourage young people to Sorosoke, they must be guided to do it the right way. More so, institutions of higher learning have a leading role in providing solutions to the myriad of challenges facing society, cutting-edge research and innovative activities. Universities are places where young people are equipped to engage in intellectual debates that have national relevance and to provide solutions to socio-economic issues. So, Leap Africa, through the Youth Leadership Development Programs, build the capacity of young Nigerians in leadership and active participation in the nation's affairs, helping to shape the country's future for long-term development. The Youth Leadership Debate is a program that provides the platform for young people to use their voices and knowledge to drive conversations for national development. It is an initiative of the Nigeria Youth Futures Fund, NYFF, implemented by Leap Africa in collaboration with the MacArthur Foundation and the Ford Foundation. The 2022 Youth Leadership Debates also aims to give confidence to the voice of young people and leveraging on it as an effective tool to cause a transformed Nigeria. Its goal is to provide capacity building to young people across tertiary institutions and support them to critically evaluate information, advocate from the point of knowledge, and to collectively shape their future of Nigeria. The conversations led on the platform of the Youth Leadership Debates goes on to equip the contestants with needed knowledge to be active citizens leading a change. The NSAS protest of 2020 showed that young people can speak with one voice and cause a change. The Sorosoke movement, which means to speak up in Yoruba language, a ripple effect of young Nigerians' resistance to police brutality through the NSAS protest, was an eye-opener for government, the youth, and development agencies. Now, while it is important to encourage young people to Sorosoke, they must be guided to do it the right way. More so, institutions of higher learning have a leading role in providing solutions to the myriad of challenges facing society, cutting-edge research and innovative activities. Universities are places where young people are equipped to engage in intellectual debates that have national relevance and to provide solutions to socio-economic issues. So, Leap Africa, through the Youth Leadership Development Programs, build the capacity of young Nigerians in leadership and active participation in the nation's affairs, helping to shape the country's future for long-term development.
Good morning and welcome, rather good afternoon, and welcome to day 2 of the Youth Leadership Debate Elimination Round 2. The Youth Leadership Debate is an initiative of the Nigeria Youth Futures Fund, NYFF, which is implemented, of course, by Leap Africa, and it provides a platform for young people across tertiary institutions to advocate from a position of critically evaluated information, equipping them to become active citizens who collectively shape the vision of the Nigeria we want. This debate series is sponsored by MacArthur Foundation and Ford Foundation. I would like to welcome our judges and our debaters to the debate today. Our judges for today, we have 3 judges. Sinistoluwa Abraham, who is the Finance and Admin Manager at Leap Africa. We also have Kemi Adetore, Client Service Executive and Mental Health Advocate. And of course, we have Ogundare Taye Oluwatobi, who is a renowned debate judge. On the debate rounds today, we have Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University. We have 2 teams from the Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University, Team 1 and 2. Representing Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University, Team 2, we have Victor Damot and Rex Ojochede Stephen. Representing the Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University, Group 1, we have Gift Umaru and Florence Abizun Oga. They will be debating on the topic, green sector development could heighten the exclusion of rural communities. Green sector development could heighten the exclusion of rural communities. Would have Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University Group 2 propose this motion, while Group 1 will be opposing the motion. Our debaters are in the room, and very quickly, I'll just take us through the rules of engagement for the debates. So each team would get 5 minutes for their first speakers to introduce their motion, define their key terms, set burdens, establish mechanisms or models if needed, and offer substantive arguments. Second speakers from both teams would also get 3 minutes to offer substantive new arguments and defend the first speaker's points. Both teams would also have 30 seconds for rebuttals to question and challenge their opposition, to clarify arguments, to point out weaknesses, and also seek opportunity for strategic maneuvering. Finally, each team would have 1 minute for final and closing remarks, and also to crystallize their thoughts and crystallize the round. Please note that timers will be shown so that you are aware of how much time you have left. And once your time elapses, you would have about 5 to 10 seconds to finish your sentences, and any other points outside these 10 seconds will not be taken. Finally, there will be penalties for failing to adhere to the rules of engagement that have been shared, and the following offenses that I would take now will attract a penalty of 1 point: inappropriate conduct, objectionable language, severe personal attack on another debater, falsified evidence, proven false, of course, by the opponents, irrelevant arguments, unfair tactics, and unfamiliarity with the rules. Once again, I'd like to welcome everyone to this round, and we will go right into it. Our debaters are ready, and we are also ready for them to begin. So to support for the proposition team, I'd like to call on the first speaker, Victor Damot, to start the argument. You have 5 minutes, and your time starts now.
All right, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed judges and fellow debaters, greetings to you all. Today we gather to explore a topic of immense significance. Green sector development could heighten the exclusion of rural communities in Nigeria. First of all, I would like us to talk about what is this green sector development. It is actually the process of creating economic growth and development that is environmentally sustainable. It encompasses a wide range of activities, from renewable energy to sustainable agriculture. The goal of green sector development is to create a more prosperous and equitable society while also protecting our environment. And I would like to bring out my arguments as follows. According to 2022 report by the World Bank, Nigeria is one of the most unequal countries in the world, with the richest 10% of the population controlling more than 40% of the country's wealth. This inequality is particularly pronounced in rural areas, where the majority of the population lives in poverty. Green sector development often requires large upfront investment, which is difficult for rural communities to afford them. For example, the construction of solar power panel or a wind farm panel or energy can cost millions of dollars, which is beyond the reach of most rural communities. Green sector development can also lead to displacement of rural communities, and their lands is taken over for development projects. For example, a 2022 study by the Environmental Rights Action Friends of Earth Nigeria found that over 100,000 people have been displaced from their homes due to oil and gas exploitation in Niger Delta region. And we also have issues like conflicts, land conflicts. Green sector projects such as large-scale renewable energy installations can lead to conflicts over land and ownership and use. This can escalate into disputes between local communities and the government and private investors. According to reports by the Environmental Rights, it says that tension emerged in 2002 over the construction of solar farms in Kwali Area Council of the Federal Capital Territory of Nigeria. The solar farm, which is being developed by a private company, is located on the land that is traditionally owned by baggy people. The baggy people have protested protested the construction of the solar farms, arguing that it violates their land rights. They have also expressed concern about environmental impacts of the projects. The dispute over the solar farm in Kwali is just one example among many. Some of these examples are that of the issue we all know about in 2018. There were protests against the construction of hydroelectricity dam in the Mambila Plateau region of Nigeria. The dam project would have displaced thousands of people and flooded a large area of land. In 2020, there were protests against the construction of wind farms in Ogun State, Nigeria. The wind farm project would have displaced several villagers affected by their livelihoods and local farms. Listeners and judges, I would like to say to you that the coming of green sector development, because it has not been properly looked into, it has brought a lot of rural areas into distinction and exclusion, and that will not be what we want for our country, Nigeria. Also, I would like to say that it has brought about lack of job opportunities for rural areas. This is the reason why I say that is that in 2021, study by the Nigerian Conservation Foundation found that only 10% of jobs created by renewable energy sectors were enjoyed by urban areas, which means that the local people are not part of these initiatives. And when it comes to policy making, when it comes to inclusion and planning, the rural communities are not part of this planning. Therefore, I would like to say that it is important for us to look elsewhere and also strengthen what we already have than to look into developing these sectors in the rural areas. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Victor, for that opening argument. We'll now move on to Group 1 of the Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University for their opening argument. So I'd like to call on Gift Umar to please give us the first opening.
Good day, judges. Good day, ladies and gentlemen. The result of green sector Good day, judges. Good day, ladies and gentlemen. The result of green sector development could heighten the exclusion of rural communities. I stand to oppose the motion and I argue that green sector development will and has been heightening the inclusion of rural communities. So what are we discussing? We see green sector, we see exclusion and rural communities. We define organizations in the green sector as those that have economic activities that reduce environmental impact through sustainable transportation, resource management, green building, clean energy, economy, among others. Now, what is exclusion? Exclusion is the act of being painfully or deliberately left out. Okay, let us use US Census Bureau definition that says rural living are areas having less than 500,000 people. Who are our receivers? Rural areas. The inclusion of these areas is the point I plan to drive home. Why do we say rural areas have been included in the green sector development and not excluded? According to the former Minister of Education, Sharon Ikiazo, on the 8th of October 2021, she said about 70% of rural households still use dirty biomass for cooking, and 60% will continue to use in 2030 if something is not done. Not forgetting that gas flaring contributes over 58 million tons of CO2 to the atmosphere, and that is a significant proportion of Nigerian total greenhouse gas emission, said Professor Okereke, the coordinating lead author, UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change in Premium Times. Where are these gases flared in rural areas? Climate change, on the other hand, is the biggest threat facing humanity today. By 2009, an estimated 6,000 gullies were destroying roads, highways, pipelines, and houses across rural and urban areas in Nigeria. Many Nigerians live in fear and despair of these extreme weather events. In Calabar, in southern Nigeria, in Kesi Oyo Ita, a 75-year-old grandmother recalls, whenever it rained, boys came out with cutlass and shovels to clear the streets and create gutters. But that was not enough to solve the problem. We lived in fear of being drowned or washed away with our belongings. Other issues are increased temperature, variable rainfall, loss of biodiversity. Now, with all these whys, I'm sure you are wondering, so how are these rural areas included in the green sector development? To mention but a few. The Nigerian Erosion and Watershed Management Project, NEMAP, working with the World Bank, launched in 2012, adopted innovative integrated approaches based on rural community participation. The project completed in 2022 linked poverty alleviation with sustainable green ecosystem and better disaster risk prevention. This has improved the lives and safety of more than 12 million people in rural areas and 23 states, including Edo, Jos, and Anambra, among others. When the road and gully had not been made, my husband used to put sand on parts of the road damaged by flood erosions. Now he no longer has to do that. This work done by this project in our community is very good, and residents are very happy because they no longer fear flood and gully erosion, says Roseline Okali of the Igbo community in Edo State. To help the government of Nigeria finance green investments in agriculture, energy, water, and transport, green bonds were issued, a premier in Africa. The bonds raised $30 million in 2017 and $41 million in 2019. The new map supported initiatives helped decrease greenhouse gas emissions, afforestation, and innovative technologies such as fuel-efficient cook stoves, solar-powered primary health centers, borehole pumps, meat dryers, and agro-processing plants were introduced to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and dependence on fossil fuel and fuel wood. In addition, 185,000 local government officials and community members were trained in environmental management to boost their knowledge on land degradation, soil and water conservation, sustainable farming, and waste management. All this reported from a featured story in October 19, 2022 on the World Bank digital platform. Lastly, when? From the statistics and examples I've given above, I'm sure you can see that some of the projects have kickstarted while others will soon kickstart, and some already are successes. Other agencies include Green River Project, Nigerian Energy Transition Plan, Leap Africa. Although a point from my opponents may be how Nigeria cannot economically shoulder green sector development, hence lead to exclusion of rural communities. But we should also be aware that a range of organizations have developed approaches to address these issues by providing finances and support when needed. Organization for Economic Cooperation 2012, United Nations Environmental Programme 2014, German Agency for International Cooperation 2015, and World Bank 2012. I hope I have, or I will convince you at the end of this debate, that green sector development cannot exclude rural communities, where rural communities are the key subject for implementation of the green sector development. I am Umar Rubi from Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University, Bauchi. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gift, for your opening argument for the opposition team. We'll now go back to the proposition team to listen to the second speaker's argument. We'll bring up Rex Ojechegbe. Stephen, you have 3 minutes. Over to you, Rex.
All right, thank you very much. Being green is not just an aspiration, but an action. According to Christian Pelosi, panel of judges, esteemed moderator, my co-debaters, and our audience. Today, I am before you to support the motion that lies in the heart of the future of the Nigeria we want. Green sector development could heighten exclusion of rural communities. One way green sector development could further exclude the communities is through the location of new industries and infrastructure. For example, if new solar or wind farms are built in rural areas, they could displace local residents or disrupt traditional ways of life. New roads or power lines could also affect rural communities, and the increased cost of living associated with green sector development could price out many rural residents. One example is the case of the Ogoni people in Niger Delta, who have traditionally relied on fishing and farming as their main livelihoods. The construction of the Lekki Free Trade Zone and other projects has led to pollution of local rivers and farmlands. This has made it difficult for people to continue their traditional way of life. The pollution has also led to health problems as people who have been exposed to contaminated water and fish. The economic impact of the loss of livelihood have been devastating to many communities. According to a journal titled The Greater Common Good in 1999, one of the most controversial cases of displacement due to green sector development is that of the Sarovar Dam in the Narmada River in Gujarat, India. The dam has displaced over 140,000 people, many of whom are poor and landless. the resettlement process has been chaotic and inadequate. While my opponents may claim that green sector development will bring about job opportunities, they fail to know that industries may require workers with specialized skills which are not available in rural areas. This could force people to move away from their homes and communities in order to go find work. A practical example of this was cited in a paper written by Dr. Ikechukwu Ilozo titled "The Limits of Inclusiveness in Rural Electrification Projects," where he used the Ogun State Power Project as a case study. The project was developed in Ogun State and it was supposed to create jobs for local people. However, many people did not have the education or training needed to work on the project. As a result, most of the jobs went to people from outside the area, and the local people did not see any of the promised benefits. Do you now see that lack of education and training could be a barrier to rural communities accessing the benefit of green sector projects? According to an estimate given by International Renewable Energy, only 20% of jobs created by renewable energy sector in Africa go to local people. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Rex, for your argument. All right, so we'll move very quickly to the second team, the opposition team. We'll call on the second speaker to give her supporting argument. Florence Oga, over to you. You have 3 minutes. Hi, Florence. We can't hear you, so you might want to unmute so that we can hear you.
I'm very sorry. The opposition party spoke about how rural areas have protested against green sector development. Our resolve today is green sector development could heighten the exclusion of rural areas. So is green sector development excluding these rural areas, or are these rural areas not ready to accept green sector development? I am Florence Abisu Oga, and I'm here to oppose the motion that says green sector development could heighten the exclusion of rural areas in Nigeria. The rural carbon footprint is about 20% larger than the urban one. The researchers report in a journal about environmental research. Pollution takes place more in these rural areas. Why should they be excluded from the green sector development? If all is said and done and policies implemented, more resources will be allocated to these rural areas because they need it more. The Nigerian Energy Transition Plan, which is the first among many in African countries, is set to promote the use of natural gas as an alternative energy for transport. The gas will be flaring in rural areas like Ebedi in Niger Delta can finally be used for transportation. This will reduce the pollution of air in these rural areas. Is that inclusion or is that exclusion? Most of the projects carried out during the Youth Day of Service, which is initiated by Leap Africa, are agri sector development projects, and they are mostly done in rural areas. While preparing for my debate, I decided to watch Youth Leadership Debate 1.0, and I remember watching the Leap African team talk about their eco-friendly projects, planting of trees, and cleaning of communities. They were all done in rural areas, not urban areas. The team focused on the citizens of the country that need this development the most. During our Leap Africa training program, I remember a facilitator that caught our attention, Mr. Hamzat Lawal, who started a campaign called Follow the Money to help people of the rural area of Zamfara, northern Nigeria, that were affected by lead poisoning. That's inclusion and not exclusion. Green sector development doesn't inherently exclude rural communities. Measures can be taken to ensure that, such as inclusive policies, infrastructural investments. Given green sector development can be an opportunity to invest in these rural areas. Skill development for the people in the rural areas to encourage them and also help them understand the importance of green sector development. Just environmental justice, ensuring that the green sector projects adhere to principles of environmental justice to prevent the displacement of these rural communities and protect their rights. This way, the development of the green sector will not just include the rural areas, but focus on the rural areas. I am Florence Abizobaga. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Florence, for your supporting arguments. Very interesting arguments for both teams. We'll now go straight to the cross-examination, and I'd like to call on Victor from the proposition team to take over the cross-examination for his team. You have 30 seconds.
All right, it's Rex taking the cross-examination. It's really appalling to know that my opponent even failed to highlight one of the points which I thought they could actually come about the importance of green sector development, which is job creation opportunities, and they failed to. But even if they did, I would have drawn their attention to a paper written by Dr. Adetokunbo titled The Journal of Sustainability, where he used Kogi State hydropower project as a case study. The project was developed in Kogi State, and it promised to bring electricity to rural areas and to create jobs for local people. However, the project was plagued by delays and cost overruns. As a result, the local people were left without electricity for years, and the developers even left the community worse than they met it.
Thank you, Rex, for your cross-examination. We'll move swiftly to the second team, the opposition team, for this argument, and I'll be calling on Florence to take the cross-examination for her team. You have 30 seconds.
The first speaker in the opposition team spoke about the 100,000 people that were displaced because of crude oil development. I would like to point out that that is not a green sector development plan. That is that's a crude oil plan, which the green sector is going against. So if he's saying that 100 people were displaced because of crude oil development, does that mean that these people will still be displaced because of the green sector plan? The green sector plan will only include them or exclude them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Florence, for your cross-examination. We'll now go to final and closing arguments from both teams, and I'll call on Victor from the proposition team to give the closing argument. You have 1 minute for your closing argument. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to remind you of the fact that all the things that my opponent said don't have credible evidence, because what I'm asking is that where are these things happening? When you talk about the jobs, are the rural people actually being given these jobs, or those jobs were given to the urban people who are staying in the cities and end up having conflicts with the people in the rural communities? I am still talking to you today that the Niger Delta and the settlements of Abuja are still lamenting that they are excluded from all the equal shares that they are supposed to be having from these investments that are happening. Lands are in Delima, people are in Delima, people are crying everywhere. Go to rural communities, you will definitely know that they are not engaged. Lack of inclusion and planning is what we are saying. It is lacking when it comes to green sector development. I am sure, and that you will be convinced at the end of this presentation, that the rural people are not included, and that is not the Nigeria we want to see. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Victor, for your closing arguments for the proposition team. We'll move now to the opposition team to give us their closing argument, and I'll be calling on Gift to give us you 1 minute for your argument.
No matter how little jobs are, even a cleaner is still a job. So I do not think it is possible to completely exclude rural communities from jobs, no matter how little these people are being employed. Moreover, most of these rural dwellers need education, which likes of organizations like NewMap are offering programs and awareness to these individuals. I noted it in my debate. And my opponent said I did not give examples, but I believe I gave up to 3 examples of places where this green sector development is being carried out. In conclusion, I will end by defining green and inclusive growth by German Agency for International Cooperation 2015. Green and inclusive growth is that which allows for a reduction of humanity's ecological footprint and improves or at least does not harm the opportunities of people living in poverty to partake in the process of outcome or economic growth. Compare this with what you've heard and know. Were rural communities ever really excluded in green sector development? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gift, for closing argument. All right. We have come to the end of this first round. Well done, debaters. Very interesting arguments from both teams. Would now move on to our judges. Would like our judges to give the debaters feedback. So I'll be calling on Simi Solua Abraham to please give her feedback to our debaters.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. So, well done to the teams that just presented from Abubakar Tafeola Balewa University. The two teams, very well done. The arguments were very well understood. So, for the proposition team, the first point I would like to make was the fact that you used practical examples and it was easy to follow some of your points. It was very good as you were able to give scenario and to the examples that you actually mentioned. So it was good to listen to that. One of the things I also like to correct or highlight for you is the use of backup data. Some of the points that you mentioned earlier, you talked about how the lack of jobs have caused displacement. The green energy sector has caused displacement to lack of job opportunities in the rural sectors. So I didn't see a scenario whereby you were now bringing data to back up that information where you were giving us. Another good thing that happened was the fact that your second speaker was able to expand on your conversation about lack of job opportunities. And for the opposition team, one of the biggest feedback that I would like to give you is the fact that I feel like you were reading too much from a script that was pre-designed rather than internalizing your points and coming to actually give us a rundown on your 5 minutes rundown about what you were going to oppose the debate about. Another good thing that I also wanted to commend you about was the fact that you were able to do well-detailed research and you were able to quote some of the references that was valid for the research that was done. Lastly, another thing that you can imbibe going forward as you go on or you progress in the debate is the fact that you can use more verified data sources rather than just quoting what a person said on a news outlet or what you heard in passing by somebody saying. So quoting, for example, if you're going to give data on statistics rather than just quoting what someone said, can you quote a data that is coming from a MBS, Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, to actually back up your data? Thank you. I would pause here for now.
Thank you very much, Simi Solua Abraham, for your feedback to our debaters. I'm sure that they're taking note of the feedback that's been given. So I'll move on to Taye Ogundare to please give us his feedback for our debaters.
Thank you so much. First, congratulations to the two teams for making it thus far. So I think this was really a nice debate. I must thank the two teams. So let me just go straight to feedbacks. So I pick it up from where the last judge stopped. I think the two teams did fairly well in terms of researches, in terms of those references, but you can work on that. I think the next most important thing I want to call teams out on is the clashes in the round. I think in a debate round, teams need to engage the most significant clash in the debate. I think what the second team was able to talk about is how this is very, very harmful in terms of how these people in these rural areas are not going to accept this. I think then the claim we get from the other side is to say, see, most of these arms you talk about are the arms these people want to solve. I think that's a very beautiful way to call out teams. So I think teams can learn from calling out teams with the most important arguments in the debate. The second thing I must commend the opposition team is using realistic example like the Leap Africa comparison they were trying to make. I think those are examples that we can work with or that is feasible. So that's a very good claim. The last thing I'm going to call teams on is signposting your argument and telling us why those arguments is important in the debate. So if your argument is how people get job or how you get job opportunity, tell us why that job opportunity is the most important thing for people in the rural area above all things in this debate. I think tying that argument to impact makes it very, very relevant, and it gives credence and importance to your round. But all together, I think this was really a nice round, and yeah, hopefully see you around. Congratulations.
Thank you very much for your feedback. We'll now move on to Kemi Adetore to give us feedback to our debaters.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. It's been an exciting, journey for both teams. I was literally almost jumping on my seat, like, oh my goodness, who am I going to support? Who's saying what's right? Both teams really spoke very well. I love both teams. From the team from the opposition team. I loved your data. I loved how relatable I felt. I could resonate with some of your points. It was really beautiful, and I also loved how the supporting team mentioned how some of the problems, like the rural communities, would face if they embrace green sector development. I would also want to mention, I feel like this is also very important, because I know one of the things about Leap Africa is the fact that they want to give you a voice, and because they're giving you a voice because they believe that you have knowledge, and because you have knowledge, they believe that you can create national development. I'm hoping that in your arguments, probably in the future, you're able to probably somehow include in your arguments the things that you know can work. Like what exactly is going to work with what I know? How can I impact into if I were probably in the shoes of leaders, if I were in the shoes of those people making the policies, right? How can I impact? What can I do? I would also love like your personal contribution. Yes, you have the data, you've gotten your information from here, you've gotten your information from there, but then for you, what do you think if you would want to do something? Do what is right, what would you do? I just feel that is also very important. Just see yourself in the shoes of leadership, and what will you do? And I'm really hopeful that when I begin to hear of you, when I begin to see you on the screen, I see that, okay, whatever you've said, you're actually doing it. I really hope this helps one way or the other. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kemi, Taye, and Simisolua, for your feedback to our debaters. The judges' scoring sheet has been shared with you all. Please go ahead to impute your scores for these teams that have debated in this first round. Scores of all the rounds will be announced alongside the winners at the end of the rounds for today. We'll go on a short break, after which we'll be taking the second round for today between Bayes University and Alex Ekweme Federal University, and they'll be debating on the topic, political priorities should take precedence over public interest in fuel subsidy reforms. Thank you very much. See you shortly.
The Youth Leadership Debate is a program that provides the platform for young people to use their voices and knowledge to drive conversations for national development. It is an initiative of the Nigeria Youth Futures Fund, NYFF, implemented by Leap Africa in collaboration with the MacArthur Foundation and the Ford Foundation. The 2022 Youth Leadership Debates also aims to give confidence to the voice of young people and leveraging on it as an effective tool to cause a transformed Nigeria. Its goal is to provide capacity building to young people across tertiary institutions and support them to critically evaluate information, advocate from the point of knowledge, and to collectively shape their future of Nigeria. The conversations led on the platform of the Youth Leadership Debates goes on to equip the contestants with needed knowledge to be active citizens leading a change. The NSAS protest of 2020 showed that young people can speak with one voice and cause a change. The Sorosoke movement which means to speak up in Yoruba language, a ripple effect of young Nigerians' resistance to police brutality through the NSAS protest was an eye-opener for government, the youth, and development agencies. Now, while it is important to encourage young people to Sorosoke, they must be guided to do it the right way. More so, institutions of higher learning have a leading role in providing solutions to the myriad of challenges facing society, cutting-edge research and innovative activities. Universities are places where young people are equipped to engage in intellectual debates that have national relevance and to provide solutions to socio-economic issues. So, Leap Africa, through the Youth Leadership Development Programs, build the capacity of young Nigerians in leadership and active participation in the nation's affairs, helping to shape the country's future for long-term development.
There's a huge innovation gap on the continent. You have young people who are talented and largely driven by passion, who go into starting enterprises without the requisite skills, knowledge, resources, relationships to be able to take them sustainably.
We couldn't sustain the programs we did. We lacked financial capacity.
It was just at the point where I was almost going to stop the idea.
The SIP Social Innovators Program was designed so that we can bridge that gap. We can fill that gap of capacity.
Indirectly, when they invested in me as a young person, they've invested in the over 11,000 plus women that we've been able to empower.
We're able to provide relief materials to over 3,000 inmates.
For just the last 3 years, after being a LEAP fellow, we are able to achieve that goal to the highest level I can think about.
The Youth Leadership Debate is a program that provides the platform for young people to use their voices and knowledge to drive conversations for national development. It is an initiative of the Nigeria Youth Futures Fund, NYFF, implemented by Leap Africa in collaboration with the MacArthur Foundation and the Ford Foundation. The 2022 Youth Leadership Debates also aims to give confidence to the voice of young people and leveraging on it as an effective tool to cause a transformed Nigeria. Its goal is to provide capacity building to young people across tertiary institutions and support them to critically evaluate information, advocate from the point of knowledge, and to collectively shape their future of Nigeria. The conversations led on the platform of the Youth Leadership Debates goes on to equip the contestants with needed knowledge to be active citizens leading a change. The NSAS protest of 2020 showed that young people can speak with one voice and cause a change. The Sorosoke movement, which means to speak up in Yoruba language, a ripple effect of young Nigerians' resistance to police brutality through the NSAS protest was an eye-opener for government, the youth, and development agencies. Now, while it is important to encourage young people to Sorosoke, they must be guided to do it the right way. More so, institutions of higher learning have a leading role in providing solutions to the myriad of challenges facing society, cutting-edge research and innovative activities. Universities are places where young people are equipped to engage in intellectual debates that have national relevance and to provide solutions to socio-economic issues. So, Leap Africa, through the Youth Leadership Development Programs, build the capacity of young Nigerians in leadership and active participation in the nation's affairs, helping to shape the country's future for long-term development.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Round two is right here, and our topic for this round is political priorities should take precedence over public interest in fuel subsidy reforms. And the schools that will be debating this topic are Alex Ekweme Federal University as the proposition team, and we have Bayes University as the opposition team. On the Alex Ekweme Federal University team, we have Ogbonna Godfavor, Chimeremia, and Nwele Stanley Chimere. On the Bayes University team, we have Mesfamachi Erugo and Divine Marauzu. All right, very quickly, I'll take us through the rules of engagement so that we're all familiar with that. Each team would have 5 minutes for their first speakers to introduce their motion, to define their key terms, set wordings, establish mechanisms or models if needed, and offer substantive arguments, after which would have the second speakers for both teams with 3 minutes to deal with the proposed framework by the opposition, offer supporting arguments and also substantive arguments. Then we'll have the cross-examination for 30 seconds from both teams, where they would be questioning and challenging the opposition team, and also asking clarifying arguments, pointing out weaknesses and seeking opportunities for strategic maneuvering. And then finally, each team would have 1 minute to finalize their arguments with closing statements and also to crystallize the round. The timer will be shown on the screen. Once your time elapses, you have 5 to 10 seconds to finish your statement, after which any other points would not be marked for your team. We have some penalties. Each team will be penalized for failing to adhere to these rules of engagement, and the following offenses would carry a penalty of 1 point: inappropriate conduct, objectionable language, severe personal attack on another debater, falsified evidence proven false by the opposition team, irrelevant arguments, unfair tactics, and unfamiliarity with the rules. We wish both teams all the very best in this round. We will go right into it. I'll be calling on the first speaker from the Alex Ekweme Federal University, the proposition team, to give us the opening argument for the team. Over to you, Stanley Nwele. You have 5 minutes and your time starts now. Hello, Stanley. You'll have to unmute because we can't hear you. Hello, Stanley. I hope that you can hear me. We can't hear you. Please unmute so that we can hear you. Hello, Stanley. You might have to leave the platform and then rejoin so that your mic can work. While you do that, we'll call on the first speaker of the opposition team to please give us the opening arguments for Bayes University. Ms. Somachi Erugu, over to you. You have 5 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, my fellow citizens, my name is Ms. Somachi Erugo, and I will be presenting a compelling argument against the notion that political priorities should take precedence over public interest in fuel subsidy reforms. As we all know, reforms are essential for the well-being of our society. Rather, we must ensure that reforms are made with public interest in mind, rather than political priorities. According to a comprehensive study by the World Bank, countries that prioritize public interest in fuel subsidy reforms tend to achieve greater economic efficiency and fiscal sustainability in the long run. By reducing subsidies and redirecting funds towards critical sectors, government can foster economic growth and provide better public services. Public interest is defined by the Black's Law Dictionary as the general welfare of the public that warrants recognition and protection, something in which the public has as a whole in stake. It is an interest that justifies governmental regulation. When it comes to fuel subsidy reforms, it is imperative that we prioritize public interest above all else, even political priorities. Why? Because the impact of these reforms directly affects the daily lives of our citizens. Let's look at the Venezuela public policy fuel subsidy reforms. Venezuela provides an illustrative case study of how political priorities overshadowing public interest in fuel subsidy reforms can lead to detrimental consequences. Despite economic challenges, the government maintained heavily subsidized fuel prices for political reasons. This resulted in significant economic distortions, fuel smuggling, and a strain on public finances, ultimately leading to a deepening economic crisis and hardship for the general public. The Nigerian government has for decades subsidized fuel and fixed retail prices of the petroleum products, but in November 2021, the federal government announced its plan to remove the fuel subsidy and replace it with a monthly 5,000 naira transport grant for poor Nigerian citizens. Nigerians should not have to pay for the price of decades of political and economic mismanagement of the subsidy scheme. By placing public interest at the forefront, we can ensure that the needs of and concerns of the people are adequately addressed. Fuel subsidy plays a critical role in maintaining affordability and accessibility, particularly for those who rely on fuel for transportation and livelihood. President Tinubu, during his inauguration speech, made a consequential announcement that fuel subsidy is gone, declaring an end to the fuel subsidy on petroleum premium motor spirits (PMS). This left millions of Nigerians terrified. This momentous decision sent shockwaves across the country and resonated globally. In response to the president's pronouncement, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company (NNPC) immediately implemented changes to the retail prices of the PMS. The increase in fuel prices has led to grave implications for transportation costs, the cost of goods and services, and the overall cost of living. This price adjustment presents challenges, particularly for lower income individuals and vulnerable segments of the society. When political priorities take precedence over public interest, it can result in policies that may not align with the actual needs of the people, and this can lead to increased financial burdens, reduce access to essential services, and hinder economic growth. In 2012, Nigeria attempted to remove the fuel subsidies by prioritizing political considerations over public interest. This decision sparked wild protests across nationwide and immediately placed burden on the citizens. The reversal of this policy demonstrated the importance of considering public interest in fuel subsidy reforms to maintain societal stability and address the needs of the population. By prioritizing public interest, we can create a fair and just system that benefits everyone. It allows for a more inclusive approach, taking into account the diverse needs and circumstances of our citizens. It demonstrates a commitment to their well-being and ensures that their voices are being heard and considered. Fuel subsidies are stabilizing and protective for the economy. Fuel subsidies help to stabilize the economy and prevent inflation by keeping the prices of fuel and other goods low. Fuel subsidy also cautions the effects of external shocks, which have significant impact on Nigeria's economic performance. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, it is crucial that we prioritize public interest in fuel subsidy reforms over political interest. The well-being of our citizens should be the primary concern. By ensuring affordable and accessible fuel, we can alleviate the burden on citizens and promote economic stability. Let's put the needs of the people first. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Machi, for your opening argument for Bayes University, the opposition team. Now we'll go back to Alex Ekweme, Federal University's first speaker, Stanley Nwele, for the opening argument for the proposition team. Over to you, Stanley. You have 5 minutes. Hi, Stanley. We still can't hear you. I think you should disconnect the earpiece that you have.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, according to Premium Times newspaper on 18th February 2023, the NNPC announced that the federal government spends over 400 billion naira monthly on fuel subsidy. This massive expenditure was intended to the prices of petroleum low. However, it came with many unintended consequences in the sense that we have a lot of corrupt public officials who fraudulently hide this in their pocket. We feel that this is very problematic, and that's why we support the removal. We believe that our political priority debate is the total removal of fuel subsidy, creation of an open market, and eliminating corrupt tendencies of allowing these persons who wield power, influence, and affairs within the fuel subsidy regime to take charge of the monies that inherent in these regimes, and that's what we side proposition is trying to go against. My name is Moelet Stanley, and I am from Alex Kwame Federal University here to support the motion in contention. What do we define as fuel subsidy? Fuel subsidy is a form of government intervention to reduce the cost of fuel by providing direct financial support to the masses. We believe that political priority better serves public interest on a comparative level, and we'll show you why. First, the bloated budget that comes with fuel subsidy makes it easy for these unscrupulous public officials to steal and embezzle government funds. That is to say, it becomes problematic because these people get these funds, right, and remove just very few amounts of these funds to the public while they retain a huge chunk of these funds in their private pockets. It's more problematic because this fund is gotten from the hard-earned money of these poor taxpayers who make up the vast majority of population in the country. This is actually problematic, and because of the fact that this is in the hands of very few individuals, it becomes very difficult to track. Not now, it is almost impossible to track how this money is spent, right? These persons that actually are supposed to track them are paid by this government, right? The government, he that the piper dictates the tune, so you cannot necessarily track how this money is spent and how these corrupt public officials have such funds. Also, notice show you on the same level of analysis that the excess funds invested on those subsidies can be redistributed to other developments which have received little or no attention from government and status quo. According to the Punch newspaper, on 3rd October 2023, the federal government spent 3.9 trillion naira on just fuel subsidy, while it spent 2.8 trillion, 1.6 trillion, and 3.6 trillion respectively on education, health, and defense. Did you see the abysmal disproportionate imbalance that we see in status quo, right? So panel, we feel that these other very important aspects of economy that need of development that needs attention will be better attended to if the fuel subsidy is reduced, right? Because we believe that the poor masses are at the receiving end of whatever impact this has, because we have doctors flying out of the country because they are underpaid. We have very poor medical facilities and status quo. Our educational system is in shambles, and we feel that the rich who wield and steal this money can always send themselves abroad and to private institutions to get all these things, while the poor don't necessarily get them. What we advocate in our world is in Nigeria, where this money is used to cushion the effect. This money is actually used it's actually invested in other areas of development that governments have in very many years, and that's the more we should remove fuel subsidy. Now, notice how we believe that a lot of hardship that comes with this removal. People are at the moment, yes, but we believe there is not good that comes. That is to say, these hardships are only for a limited time. That is to say, government is actually making steps in the right direction, providing $5 to every state to cushion the effect of these arms. We believe that in very subsequent, people would be upliftment if all these other areas have been addressed. People would be given empowerment to act withstand whatever harsh effect or whatever the cost of fuel and status quo, and that's the more reason why we win, right? So panel will believe that we want a country where there is limited corruption and where vast majority of developmental aspects of society is put into consideration with none being left out. And we can only achieve this when we remove the large sum of money we invest in fuel subsidy and invest in other very important aspects of the economy, and that's the more reason why you should support side proposition. In conclusion, we are very much proud to propose the motion in contention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stanley, for the opening argument for the proposition team. Would move now to the second speaker of the opposition team, Divine Maraizu. You have 3 minutes to give your supporting argument.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Building on the foundation laid by our first opposition speaker, I rise to further emphasize the public interest must take precedence when considering fuel sources, especially in our current global and national context. Our opponents argue about the economic benefits of removing fuel subsidies, but we must ask, these benefits are for whom? Why economic models paint a rosy picture, the lived experiences of everyday Nigerians tell a different story, and the undeniable reality is that millions of Nigerians are finding it difficult to make ends meet. Yes, the proposition side also argue that fuel subsidies are unsustainable because they divert public funds from more productive sectors such as health, education, and infrastructure. However, we say that this is a false dilemma and a strawman argument because they present a misleading choice between choosing between fuel subsidies and public services. We on side opposition say that fuel subsidies are not the main cause of Nigeria's fiscal problems, but rather than a symptom of a deeper structural issue of low revenue mobilization. Nigeria has one of the lowest tax to GDP ratios in the world at about 6%, which limits its fiscal space and capacity to provide public services. Instead of removing or reforming fuel subsidies, which could hurt the people, the government should instead be broadening or focusing more on tax base, improving tax administration, and reducing tax evasion avoidance, thereby generating more revenue to still cater for these public services that the people need. But when we talk about fuel subsidies, we are not just discussing numbers on a page. We are addressing the daily lives of millions of Nigeria. A change in these subsidies directly impacts transportation costs. This in turn affects the prices of food, goods, and essential services. The ripple effect is undeniable, and the brunt is borne by the common citizen who lives on 30,000 naira minimum wage. Coupled with rising inflation, increasing unemployment, and fluctuating foreign exchange reserves, our nation stands on a fragile ground. Let's turn our gaze globally. Kenya's recent experience serves as a cautionary tale to Nigeria. Just last week, Kenya, facing similar economic challenges, reinstated their first subsidy. Why? Because the streets of Nairobi and other Kenyan cities witnessed violence and protests as a result of the high cost of living. What did the government have to do? They had to reinstate the subsidy. Why? Because they now recognize the public interest, especially in policies such as fuel subsidies, is of utmost importance. However, even if we still argue, and this is an even if analysis, that there is mismanagement or corruption in the administration of fuel subsidies in the past, the solution isn't to remove the subsidy on it altogether, but rather to improve the system and not punish the average Nigerian altogether. Furthermore, we also like to say that there exists a social contract theory which posits that citizens relieve their rights to the government, and also in exchange, the government has a moral and ethical duty to serve and protect the interests of the citizens. When political interests overshadow public needs, it's a betrayal of the very essence of governance, and we are opposed to this. Finally, judges, as we deliberate this issue, I urge you to consider whose interest should our policies, such as fuel subsidy, truly serve: the transient needs of the political elite or the enduring needs of Nigerian people? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Divine, for your supporting argument. We'll now move on to the proposition team's second speaker, God's Favor Ogbonna. You have 3 minutes for your supporting argument.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen.
Go ahead.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Omuna God's Favor Chimia, and I'm from Alex Federal University, Ndubali. Before I proceed to my argument, give my substance, I'm going to look at the major reports which is into this. The major clashes that we have, which side opposition up to tell us, is that about cases of financial bodies and the overall cost of living increasing daily. We feel that a very good example is the issue of Sri Lanka, where they had to subsidize majority of their goods, majority of their products, majority of their industries, and today Sri Lanka is in a very terrible condition. So this simply means that what is the priority of the government in this case? If the government have a priority, that means that the government's priority is to protect the interests of the citizens that vote them. This simply means that if the government protects or brings about this priority, or the government carries out this task, it simply means that the government would do something that will favor the citizens and benefit the citizens. Now to my substantive argument. First of all, we're going to be talking about political convenience. It is a well-known fact that the former Minister of Finance, Dr. Konji-Iweala, who attempted to curtail the fuel subsidy fraud in Nigeria, we know what the ultimate price was like. It actually attempted, or it only caused her mother's death. almost caused her mother's death, Mrs. Okonjo Ngozi, who was kidnapped from her home in Delta State in December 2012. On a level of principle, the lives of people are saved in this case. Political leaders cannot go against their fellow political leaders and the fuel subsidy, because the fuel subsidy has been removed in the first place. The problem is this: political leaders fight and in their own best and try to eliminate anyone or opposition that comes their way. This simply means that this will save the politicians an unnecessary rivalry and also reduce the fraudulent interest of these political leaders. Another level of analysis is economic consideration. The government is mandated to consider the economic stability of where citizens voted them are. The priority of any political party is the major question. This is something that side opposition came up to tell us, but we have to understand is that there are two things that are actually killing in today's debate, which is the long-term benefit that the government is trying to put in, just the short-term gratification that these people want. The government removes this for a reason, and that is what? To put a benefit that will actually benefit the citizen in the future, and that is the priority that the government is trying to bring out in today's debate. Also, subsidies can place a significant burden on national budget. They tell us that it will reduce the level or cost of living in the economy, but we feel that already the subsidy already took close to, like my first speaker said, took close to 2.3 trillion naira, which is kind of problematic. And we see the amount of money that was spent in this case. So in this case, leading to budget deficit and increased government debts. And that is not the Nigeria we want. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, God's favor, for your supporting argument. We'll move down to the opposition team for the cross-examination, and I'll be calling on Divine to take the cross-examination for Bayes University. You have 30 seconds.
Thank you very much. How do you address the fact that removing fuel subsidies would increase the cost of living and worsen the poverty and inequality in Nigeria, which already has the highest number of people living in extreme poverty in the world? However, we also call out an argument that you put forward that Sri Lanka went into chaos as a result of the subsidy. It was not because of the subsidy, it was because of high tax burden by the government and the result of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Thank you very much, Divine. We'll move now to the proposition team for their cross-examination. Over to you, Stanley. You have 30 seconds.
Thank you very much. You fail to understand that we do not deny the hardship that's already existed in status quo. However, we tell you that this hardship are things that are common with change, positive change. We're able to show you how this change is something that is like very expedient because it has long-term benefits in the health sector, the education sector, and different other sectors that have been overlooked in the vast majority of years. And that's the more reason why why the first subsidies should be removed in status quo. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your cross-examination, Stanley. Well done to both teams for your interesting arguments. We'll now take your closing arguments and we'll move on to Bayes University, the opposition team, to take the closing arguments. I'll call on Mr. Machi. You have 1 minute.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we conclude this debate, we would like to remind us that the heart of this matter is in the public. The proponents tried to make false accusations that they would raise objections to how these things benefit the public, but they failed to do this. While reforms are essential, they must never overshadow the very needs of the citizens that they are meant to serve. History has shown that both locally and globally, it teaches us that we must prioritize public interest above all. When 86% of Nigerians voice out their support for fuel subsidy, it is not just a number, it is a plea, it is a mandate. As we move forward, let us ensure that the voice of the Nigerian people remains at the forefront of our decisions. After all, the true progress is achieved when it is in harmony of the will of the people. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Machi, for your closing argument for the opposition team. We'll move now to the proposition team, and I'd like to call on God's favor to take the closing argument. You have 1 minute.
Okay, so panel, one thing side opposition does not understand in today's debate is that this political priority is not totally divorced from the public interest. That is to say, our arguments have gone a long way to show you how these political party leaders have the interest of the masses at large. What side opposition did not do was to show us how in their own word, corruption will be curbed first, how in their own word, other relegated sectors of the economy like education, like health would be encouraged and be helped and be revitalized, right? We tell you that in our own world, these other areas will be revitalized, where people get better employment, education, and healthcare system, so they can have the enabled empowerment to purchase fuel, no matter how costly and how high the price is. So we feel like in our own world, we give you a better comparative, and the reason why we feel that the effect of fuel subsidy is more cushioned in our world than whatever we get from side opposition. In conclusion, we're very much proud to propose. Thank you.
Thank you very much, the Alexa Kwame Federal University team. Well done to both teams for your insightful arguments on this very interesting topic. I would now take remarks and feedback from our judges, and I'd like to call on Kemi Adetore to please give her feedback to our debaters. Okay, seems like our judge Kemi is having some challenges with her network, so I'll call on Taye Ogundare to please give his feedback to our debaters.
Can I confirm if I can be heard? Can I confirm I can be heard?
Yes, please. We can hear you.
Okay, thank you. So, yeah, congratulations once again to the two teams. So I think debating exists like two guys on at the end of a rope trying to drag them to themselves. So why I had to make this illustration is in this particular round, we had two engaging issues. A side saying they want a long-term benefit in terms of why you can use those particular funds you get from this removal to better the health sector, and the other side saying governments owe obligation to their citizens now and they must not harm them. So in debate, those things don't need to remain that way. The two sides needs to prove why their side are the most relevant parts in the debate. And yeah, that's like the only feedback I want to give. So let me just be detailed with it. In a debate, after having your stand, you need to show us why your stance is the most important stance outside the opposition's or the government stance. So if your stand is a long-term benefit, you need to show us why that long-term benefit is better than like the now. If your side is the now, you need to show us why the now is better than the long-term benefits you need to get. But you need not to only show us on the surface level, you need to use fact to convince us on the panel why those arguments are the most important thing. Outside this, I think you just need to work on engagement, like engaging the critical acts of the debate and the nuances and arguments that are coming out from the debate. The last thing I want the two sides to work on is the structure of their speeches. I think you need to like structure your speeches in terms of your arguments, what you seek to achieve from those arguments as an impact. Outside this, I think that's a fair outing, and all the best to the two teams.
Thank you very much, Taye, for your feedback and remarks. I'll call on Simi Soluwa to please give us her feedback for our debaters.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you very much to the teams that have gone in the second round so far. It's a very, very good debate, especially because it's a very current topic that is bothering each and every Nigerian right now. Talking about fuel subsidy reforms, whether it should be done now or done at a later date, and comparing the two ends. So for the proposition team, coming from what my first judge has spoken about, and is very similar to the feedback I would have given you, talking about using substantive facts to support your argument, talking about the long-term benefits and affecting public sector, health sector, and all those other sectors. I could not connect the two arguments together. I needed to see like practical examples, how if you remove the subsidy right now, how it would literally improve all of those other sectors that you actually mentioned. So you should have given us practical example about how this subsidy removal done right now would have literally connected to the other sectors. So for the proposition team, it was very good. It was a very good argument. It was nice to listen to your points as well. I see you using a lot of practical examples um, to give your points. Then I also saw you using a lot of data and referencing those data that you were quoting on. I think major feedback for the opposition team is the fact that there was so many arguments, so many points being laid out, rather than focusing on major 1, 2, 3 points that you would literally have to expand on and like focus on arguing for those points and supporting those points fully. Another example that you gave that it brought a bit of confusion was the Venezuela example. So I was confused whether you were now proposing or opposing based on the points that you raised on Venezuela and how it's really puts pressure on the government for removing fuel subsidy reforms. But overall, it was a very good debate. I enjoyed listening to the two sides of the argument, especially because it was a current situation that is affecting all of us right now. Well done to the two teams.
Thank you very much, Stimi Solua, for your feedback. I'd like to check if Kemi is back and ready to give her feedback. All right. Thank you very much, debaters and judges. We have come to the end of the round 2. Debaters, you can exit the room. We'll take a short break, after which we'll be back for round 3, and we'll be debating. We have 2 teams that will be debating the topic, human social interaction is currently being destroyed by contemporary technology. We have 2 teams actually from the University of Ilorin, teams 4 and 3. We'll take a short break and we'll be back.
The Youth Leadership Debate is a program that provides the platform for young people to use their voices and knowledge to drive conversations for national development. It is an initiative. The Youth Leadership Debate is a program that provides the platform for young people to use their voices and knowledge to drive conversations for national development. It is an initiative of the Nigeria Youth Futures Fund, NYFF, implemented by Leap Africa in collaboration with the MacArthur Foundation and the Ford Foundation. The 2022 Youth Leadership Debates also aims to give confidence to the voice of young people and leveraging on it as an effective tool to cause a transformed Nigeria. Its goal is to provide capacity building to young people across tertiary institutions and support them to critically evaluate information, advocate from the point of knowledge, and to collectively shape their future of Nigeria. The conversations led on the platform of the Youth Leadership Debates goes on to equip the contestants with needed knowledge to be active citizens leading a change. The NSAS protest of 2020 showed that young people can speak with one voice and cause a change. The Sorosoke movement, which means to speak up in Yoruba language, a ripple effect of young Nigerians' resistance to police brutality through the NSAS protest was an eye-opener for government, the youth, and development agencies. Now, while it is important to encourage young people to Sorosoke, they must be guided to do it the right way. More so, institutions of higher learning have a leading role in providing solutions to the myriad of challenges facing society, cutting-edge research and innovative activities. Universities are places where young people are equipped to engage in intellectual debates that have national relevance and to provide solutions to socio-economic issues. So, Leap Africa, through the Youth Leadership Development Programs, build the capacity of young Nigerians in leadership and active participation in the nation's affairs, helping to shape the country's future for long-term development. The Youth Leadership Debate is
There's a huge innovation gap on the continent. You have young people who are talented and largely driven by passion, who go into starting enterprises without the requisite skills, knowledge, resources, relationships to be able to take them sustainably.
We couldn't sustain the programs we did. We lacked financial.
There's a huge innovation gap on the continent. You have young people who are talented and largely driven by passion, who go into starting enterprises without the requisite skills, knowledge, resources, relationships to be able to take them sustainably.
We couldn't sustain the programs we did. We lacked financial capacity.
It was just at the point where I was almost going to stop the idea.
The SIP Social Innovators Program was designed so that we can bridge that gap. We can fill that gap of capacity.
Indirectly, when they invested in me as a young person, they've invested in the over 11,000 plus women that we've been able to empower.
We're able to provide relief materials to over 3,000 inmates.
For just the last 3 years, after being a LEAP fellow, we are able to achieve that goal to the highest level I can think about.
The Youth Leadership Debate is a program that provides the platform for young people to use their voices and knowledge to drive conversations for national development. It is an initiative of the Nigeria Youth Futures Fund, NYFF, implemented by LEAP Africa in collaboration with the MacArthur Foundation and the Ford Foundation. The 2022 Youth Leadership Debates also aims to give confidence to the voice of young people and leveraging on it as an effective tool to cause a transformed Nigeria. Its goal is to provide capacity building to young people across tertiary institutions and support them to critically evaluate information, advocate from the point of knowledge, and to collectively shape their future of Nigeria. The conversations led on the platform of the Youth Leadership Debate goes on to equip the contestants with needed knowledge to be active citizens leading a change. The NSAS protest of 2020 showed that young people can speak with one voice and cause a change. The Sorosoke movement, which means to speak up in Yoruba language, a ripple effect of young Nigerians' resistance to police brutality through the NSAS protest was an eye-opener for government, the youth, and development agencies. Now, while it is important to encourage young people to Sorosoke, they must be guided to do it the right way. More so, institutions of higher learning have a leading role in providing solutions to the myriad of challenges facing society, cutting-edge research and innovative activities. Universities are places where young people are equipped to engage in intellectual debates that have national relevance and to provide solutions to socio-economic issues. So, LEAP Africa, through the Youth Leadership Development Programs, build the capacity of young Nigerians in leadership and active participation in the nation's affairs, helping to shape the country's future for long-term development.
Welcome back, our debaters, judges, and of course, our wonderful viewers. We're about to go straight into round 3, and our topic of debate is human social interaction is currently being destroyed by contemporary technology. We have 2 teams from the University of Ilorin who will be proposing and opposing this motion, teams 4 and 3. The proposition team has Ali Aminat Alolade and Olowo Kereganiyat Oluwakemi. For team 3 from University of Ilorin, we have Oloriyomi Adebimpe Covenant and Ayodele Peace. Very quickly, I'll just take us through the rules of engagement. so that we're all familiar with it. So we'd have the first speaker from each team get 5 minutes to introduce the motion, define key terms, set boundaries, establish mechanisms or models if needed, and offer substantive arguments. And they would also be dealing with proposed framework by opposition, clash with the opposition's arguments and offer their own substantive arguments. Then would have the second speakers with 3 minutes offer substantive new arguments and defend the first speaker's points, after which would have cross-examinations for 30 seconds from both teams to question and challenge the opposition, to clarify arguments, point out weaknesses, and seek opportunities for strategic maneuvering. Finally, both teams will get 1 minute to crystallize the round with their closing and final argument. A timer will be shown on the screen, and once your time elapses, you have 5 to 10 seconds to finish your statement. Any points after that will not be taken. There'll be penalties for teams who fail to adhere to the rules of engagement, and the following penalties will attract a deduction of 1 point: inappropriate conduct, objectionable language, severe personal attack on another debater, falsified evidence proven false by opponents, irrelevant arguments, unfair tactics, and unfamiliarity with the rules. And with that, we'll begin round 3. All the best to both teams. I'll be calling on the first speaker from the proposition team, the University of Ilorin, Team 4, Ali Aminat Alolade, to give us the opening argument for her team. You have 5 minutes. All right, it seems like University of Ilorin Team 4, the proposition team, had some network challenges, but they're back now. So over to you, Aminat Alolade, for the opening argument for your team. You have 5 minutes.
Can I confirm that I'm audible, please?
Hello, Aminat. We can't hear you. You might want to increase your volume.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, please, Aminat. You can go ahead. We can hear you.
All right. Okay, so panel, we need to realize that a rapid digitalization is happening in today's world. Technology has become inevitable and continues to play a crucial role in our daily lives. It is therefore vital for us to examine just how these technologies impact our lives and particularly how we interact socially. According to Eldridge and Merrill, human social interaction refers to the meaningful and impactful interactions that humans have with one another. These are the things that form the very bedrock of our society, and they include the interactions that we have with our family, with our friends, with our cultures, our religions, as well as other important societal bonds. It must be clarified that this debate is not about the benefits or harms of technology in and of itself, but rather about whether or not it is currently destroying the way we interact socially. To destroy something is to cause irreparable harm. And so while we recognize the immense benefits that contemporary technologies have brought to us, we're going to be proving how it has damaged the way we interact socially and reduce the meaningfulness that social interactions ought to have in our society. Our first point is on how it causes a decrease in physical interactions. Due to the convenience and easy accessibility that these contemporary technologies have, it has reduced the time that individuals spend having face-to-face conversations with one another. According to its 2023 report by Data Sparkle, the average African spends over 4 hours daily on their phones. It means that people would rather use this contemporary technology than physically meet up with someone, even when they can. Quality of human interactions have diminished, and non-verbal cues like hand gestures, things like eye contact, things like physical touch have now been replaced by impersonal text and emojis. These are things that cannot adequately convey the emotional depth needed for proper social interaction. The opposition might want to talk about things like, oh, maybe the type of video calls and live, but these things do not and cannot replace the genuine emotional connections that come with physical interactions. The impact of this decrease is that one, it makes it harder for individuals to form genuine emotional connections with one another. We also see things like reduced emotional development, particularly in young children and teenagers who have had to grow up using this contemporary technology. Their ability to form proper social skills has not been impaired. They can no longer, their emotional development has also been impaired due to the constant use of these contemporary technologies. This is bad for society. Our next one is on technology addiction and over-dependence. According to JITNIX, 61% of internet users are addicted to it, and about 71% of people sleep next to their phones or beside their phones. People are becoming increasingly attached to and connected to their devices and are finding it much, much hard to disconnect from these devices. We could even say that we have a growing pandemic of technology addiction, particularly among young people. And in a country like Nigeria, where over 60% of our population is under the age of 18, this is a very alarming and concerning statistic. The technology addiction leads to things like long-lasting effects on mental health and the ability of people to properly interact socially. A lot of the video games that people are addicted to these days are things that have a lot of violent content. The internet itself provides constant exposure and easy access to harmful content like pornography, things like hate speech and harmful ideology. These are things that cause distractions, things like low attention span, impair people's mental health, and ultimately affect how they interact socially with one another. On the part of over-dependence, we tell you that technology is constantly evolving to meet social needs, which means that the problems are only going to get worse. We have things like AI chatbots, we have things like all of these technologies, things like shopping, things like learning, communication that ought to be done physically. These are ways that people interact socially physically are now being replaced by online, impersonal, contemporary technologies. This is problematic because it leads to the comfortability narrative. A lot of people these days are not very good at social interactions. Technology reduces the incentives for people to want to develop these in-person social skills because by making them feel comfortable using these technologies, these social skills that are very crucial for their optimum development and social interactions. This is a way that these technologies have destroyed the way we interact socially. Our next point is on how it weakens communal bonds. And now, according to the Nigerian Communications Commission in 2022, Nigeria has over 152 million active internet users. It means that with the rise of technologies like social media, online communities, and virtual spaces, people are retreating more into online spaces as opposed to actively, physically participating in communal activities. Rather than interact with or learn with, say, the elders in their community, they rather turn to social media or to AI or ChatGPT. This is something that is problematic because of the existence of things like echo chambers, where harmful ideologies that are proliferated, which challenge and erode the societal construct that our society is built on. Things like our cultures, our religion, these are things that are affected by these ideologies, leading to friction among groups and reducing the overall social cohesion that we have in society. Even family and social bonds are not left out of this because even parents, children, friends would rather be on their phones, using their devices, as opposed to actually interacting with one another. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aminat Alolade, for your opening argument. We'll move now to the opposition team, where we'll call on the first speaker to give the opening arguments for her team. Oloriyomi Adebimpe, over to you.
Growing up, there is an old proverb my mom used to say, especially when I became too attached to my friends. She would say, 20 children cannot play together for 20 years. I guess this was the experience in her days, when a goodbye to friends and classmates during graduation was usually with tears and sorrows of not knowing if and when they would see each other again. 3 years after graduating from high school and almost 10 years after primary school, I am still playing in quotes with over 20 of my mates, all thanks to WhatsApp group chats and video calls. This has made it possible for us to plan reunions, and by our 20th year reunion, I will still be playing in quotes with more than 20 of my mates. This maintained communication with old friends across distances has been made possible only by technology. For the sake of valid argument, the Oxford English Dictionary defines social interaction as the process by which individuals and groups engage in reciprocal communication and exchange of ideas, information, or emotions. This can take place through direct contact, such as face-to-face conversations, or through indirect contact with the use of technology. Our claim today is that technology has increased the quantity and quality of social interactions by making it easier to connect and commit to social circles and activities. For the evidence of today's debate, in a 2013 study published in the Public Library of Science Journal, it showed that an average person meets 80,397 people during his or her lifetime. And this depends on certain factors, such as the number of people a person sees daily, the size of their social circle, the amount of travel they do. And this study did not include the people a person meets on social media or through other forms of technology, which would make the output 3 times more than it is. Studies also show that an average person has a much larger network when you consider the people they interact with online. A 2016 study from the Pew Research Center found that the average American had 634 social media friends, and a study in 2019 shows that an average Facebook user has 245 friends. Speak about quantity. A couple of days ago, I attended an onboarding session in New York from Nigeria, interacting with over 100 United Nations Millennium Fellowship directors across the globe via Zoom. After the meeting proper, we were further split into groups of 6 to interact and speak about basic stuff, from our favorite food to what superpowers we wished we had. People I would never physically have met but for Zoom. The point is, social media and other technology-based platforms have not only increased the number of our interactions, but have assisted in the quality of relationships. Panel, quantity and quality. Now, to the impact of our claims today. Technology has bridged the gap between social introverts and extroverts. Introverts tend to be quiet, reserved, and introspective. These are people who prefer to spend more time on their phones, as proven by a recent study from the University of Missouri. There are people who are tagged as shy, antisocial, but now they don't have to battle with physical meetings or relations which they are not comfortable with. It has given introverts a safe space for social interactions, even with extroverts that they usually avoid. It has also helped in connecting with family and friends. In the past, families far away from home had to communicate via letters that could get missing, postcards. It was exhausting to maintain relationships. But with video calls, group chat, and even WhatsApp status views, it is easier to know what is going on in each other's lives. Also, business deals and opportunities. It has made it easier to connect with potential investors or employers by sending them your resume or works to capture their attention on social media than physically, when you might not even be given a chance, or you might be bounced out by bouncers. It has also helped in connecting buyers to sellers via online marketing, Jumia, AliExpress, Food by Hilda. And rather than destroy, technology platforms help in regulating human social interactions. For instance, social media, e.g. Facebook, Instagram, filter rude comments and statements via their effective community guidelines, which means that you can't say something offensive or hateful. And you can also regulate the people you communicate with by reporting offensive messages and by blocking offenders. Panel, technology has, in all ramifications, both online and offline, increased the rate of social interactions, human social interactions amongst youth. And we stand by this claim today. We have never been more proud to oppose. Here.
Thank you very much, Adebimpe, for your opening argument for the opposition team. We'll move now to the proposition team's second speaker to give the supporting argument. I'll call on Ganiat Oluwakemi. You have 3 minutes. Second speaker of the proposition team, Ganiat Oluwakemi. It's time for you to give your supporting argument. You have 3 minutes. All right. University of Ilorin, team 4.
Can I confirm if I'm audible?
Yes, we can hear you now, so you can go ahead.
Can I confirm if I'm audible?
Yes, we can hear you. We'll restart your timer. You can go ahead now.
Hello, my name is Elimination, and I'll be supporting the motion, which is one. Okay. So, hello, everyone. My name is Elimination Garnet, and I'll be supporting the motion, which is human social interaction is currently being destroyed by contemporary technology. First off, we have the instance of cyberbullying. Contemporary tech has now given particularly young children, several means of being online, right? For instance, their devices. They now spend so much time to the point where cyberbullying research center shows that 16.5% of 22% of students who are being bullied within the age of 12 to 17 are actually bullied online. That's to show that they spend so much time on their devices that people are now attacking them. Why is this bad? Now, this now leads to depression and anxiety. This type of mental health problem now hamper them from actually communicating in the real world, because there's no way a child that is depressed would want to interact with someone physically. Now, secondly, on my point on increasing social isolation, now people now majority focus on their time on having a perfect life, right? Instead of me to actually have meaningful impact. Like my partner already said, according to Meryl, we have to have meaningful impact, right? So people now focus on rather having followers rather than having authentic relationship. Why is this bad? People now seek validation online. They rather have 1 million followers rather than to have 1 million authentic friends. So sorry, there's also the point in which now happiness relies on contemporary technology, in the sense that the moment my data subscription finish, my head is like, I have to recharge as soon as possible. Although there are people I can literally communicate with and interact with physically, I still choose to confine myself to contemporary technology. So what solution are we bringing to the panel? First off, we want to push for legislation that promotes digital literacy and responsible use of tech. We're not scraping out the idea of technology. We just want to make sure that people are using it responsibly to avoid things like cyberbullying and or where people are now depressed, where they're not able to communicate with their fellow peers reasonably. Secondly, we want to actively encourage a healthy balance between being online and being offline. That means even if I don't have data, I can easily still converse with people and have meaningful impact. Thirdly, we want to promote quality screen time to be promoted, rather than spending your time watching pornography or harmful content or playing PC games that show shooting. Rather focus on having meaningful impact in the world. Number 4 is organizing community orientation and volunteering jobs where people can now do things physically and have meaningful impact. And therefore, we're very, very proud to support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ganiat, for your supporting argument. It's now time for the cross examination, and we'll take all right. It's now time for the cross examination, and we'll go back to apologies. We'll call on the second speaker from the opposition team, the University of Ilorin, team 3, to take their supporting arguments. Over to you, Ayodele Peace. You have 3 minutes.
Good day, the panel. I would love you to know that contemporary technology is the main reason why we're having this conversation. If not for contemporary technology, we'll not be having these conversations in our various comfort zones. So yes, contemporary technology has been able to help us to overcome geographical barriers and increase communication. And so my opponent was saying something about the fact that you are exposed to risk and all risk of hazard content and all. I tell you that your experience of from contemporary technology on social media depends on the kind of content you expose yourself to, depends on the kind of people that you follow, depends on the kind of things that you engage yourself in. That is what defines the kind of experience that you have. And that brings me to my next point. My opponent may want to say that, oh yes, contemporary technology is increasing mental health and all. I tell you that's not true. Why? Because there are mental health advocacy hubs that have been fostered through contemporary technology. So yes, there are apps like telehealth, there's bridging space. These apps and other social media have even been able to help to increase mental health advocacy as against what my opponent may want to say. Also, I would like you to know that you saying that contemporary technology is causing anxiety, depression, and mental health is not the whole truth. Why? Because because according to Punch newspaper of 2021, only 4.18%, as against at least 15% of the nation's budget, is going into health. What does this mean? The government itself is not prioritizing the health of the citizens. There is not enough funding. So you saying that contemporary technology is a cause of anxiety or mental health, it's just like you justifying the incompetencies of our government. Let us face this issue from the roots. The governments are not concerned about the welfare. There is not enough fund in the area of publicity and mental health advocacy, and that is what we should focus on. Panel, as I conclude, I would love you to know that contemporary technology have come to consolidate, to help build and foster and not destroy human relationship. How? So I'll tell you, I've met Ijomakalu virtually. I don't know how on-on-one basis. I don't know on a one-on-one basis. But then contemporary technology have helped me to know more about her. I went to her LinkedIn page last night. I know she holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in French. I know she's passionate about youth leadership. She was a member of Jali Network in her campus. And so when I finally get to meet Ijomakalu physically, what do? I spring up conversations that are revolving around these areas that I know she's passionate about. And that is what human social interaction is about. Building, fostering relationships and not tearing it apart, as my opponent may want to say. As I conclude, judges, I know, and I would like to proceed this question to my opponent. Would you like to go back to the time in the 80s and the 90s where you get to spend weeks and months to hear from your lover, from your friends, from your parents, or from your loved ones? I'm sure your answer is no. And that is what contemporary technology has done, to help to foster, to build, to help increase and build up, not destroy human social interaction. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peace, for your supporting arguments for the opposition team. It is now time for the cross-examination, and we'll go straight to the proposition team. I'll be calling on Aminat Alolade to give the cross-examination for her team. You have 30 seconds.
Okay, so the first thing we would like to point out is that the opposition has failed to really explain to us the exact extent to which technology can truly replace the genuine in-person interactions that we're supposed to have, considering things like the emotional depth and authenticity of face-to-face conversation. It's also important to know that the counterfactual that in our world is not a world without technology. It's a world where the negative effects of contemporary technology are mitigated, or one where, in the worst case scenario, it's taken out completely. You also need to engage the negative effects that technology has on mental health and socialization abilities of people, especially young people in a country like Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Amina, for your cross-examination. I'll move on to the opposition team, and I'll be calling on Adebinkwe Covenant to give us a cross-examination. You have 30 seconds.
From the policy that has already been given by the proposition, if you are saying that there should be quality screen time, there should be regulations, and people should be taught, enlightened on how to use tech and social media appropriately, it means that you are agreeing with us that technology, in fact, has the potential of increasing and improving human social interactions, both online and offline. So for you to be agitating for quality screen time, it means that during that quality screen time, there can be positive engagements. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Adebinkwe, for your cross-examination. Very interesting arguments from both teams. From the University of Ilorin. We'll now take your closing arguments. We'll start with the proposition team. Over to you, University of Ilorin, team 4, for your closing arguments. You have 1 minute. Team 4, please unmute and give us your closing argument. Thank you.
Closing statement. Are we audible?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, so panel, we must realize that the world is rapidly digitalizing, and so it is important for us to examine just exactly how it impacts the way we socialize with one another in society. We're going to hear about how it weakens communal bonds. We're going to hear about how it does things like decrease physical interactions between people in society. These are the ways by which the social interactions in society are currently being destroyed by these contemporary technologies. We're saying that counterfactual in our world is one where the negative effect of these contemporary technologies are mitigated, or in the worst case scenario, where we do not even use them at all. So rather than using things like live stream, we can go back to using things like phone calls. These are things that will ultimately give people the incentive to continue to communicate with each other physically. We must recognize that using contemporary technology for social interactions does not cater to things like the emotional needs of these conversations that gives them the authenticity that they really need to be meaningful, which is what human social interaction should be all about. Thank you very much.
Thank you, proposition team, for your closing argument. I'd like to call on the opposition team to please give us their closing argument. You have 1 minute.
Capitalize, please. Okay, so from the proposition side, they have talked about the fact that there has been a decrease in physical interactions, but I would say that that is not true. We can see an evidence of this during the NSAS protest and even during the 2023 elections, where because of flyers, because of posts, because of group chat, people were actually able to turn up for this event, and we've seen that youths were able to use their voices positively because they were engaged and they were also motivated through social media. A lot of celebrities turned up, musicians, Davido, Fowls, they all came out because of social media engagement. And also on the issue of mental health, according to the World Health Organization, the leading cause of mental illness worldwide is depression, and this is a condition that affects over 264 million people globally. According to this same source, the leading cause of depression and anxiety includes stress, such as financial stress, relationship stress, PTSD, genetics, brain chemistry, environmental factors such as poverty, and drug abuse. Tech doesn't even come close. So our stance still remains the same. Tech improves social interaction. Thank you.
Thank you very much, opposition team. Well done to both teams from the University of Ilorin. We'll now take remarks and feedback from our judges. I'd like to call on Kemi Adetore to please give us her remarks and feedback for our debaters.
Hi, sorry, so sorry. Good afternoon. So I can't talk now. I'm in a meeting at the moment. So can I'll just share my comment on the judges Excel, if you don't mind. I'm so sorry. Is that fine?
Yes, that's fine.
All right.
Kemi, you can just add your remarks and feedback to the scoring sheet. We'll definitely share that with our debaters. I'll call on Simi Solua to please give her feedback and remarks for our debaters. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you to the team that just went in the third round. It was a very, very interesting one, especially the fact that we are talking about social media interaction and how it affects our human interaction in current times. So I even have personal arguments with my friends where we are arguing about whether there should be a social media policy or no social media policy. How does it affect us in the long run? So it's a really, really, really interesting topic right now. So, but for the proposition side, I enjoyed the arguments. I listened to all the points that were raised. My only challenge with the points raised was the fact that we made a lot of points, and tying those points to a final conclusion at the end of the day was hard. And I also think that that's why the time management in the beginning time was quite difficult for you to conclude in time. So two feedbacks there. The fact that you brought so much points to the argument, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 6 points to your argument, rather than focusing on fewer points and expanding so much on those points to use it to tie out to your final concluding statement. And also the time management factor. And for the opposition side, very good arguments as well. Enjoyed listening to the points raised, the cross references. You did well with giving us cross references. You did well with giving us data to back up the points that you were raising. I also enjoyed the section of the cross referencing part where you had to give your opponent's feedback and all. But generally, it was a good session where I enjoyed the two teams debating. Kudos to you guys and success in moving to the next stage. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Timisolua. I'd like to hear Tayo's remarks and feedback for our debaters.
Can I confirm if you still can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, great. So I think beautiful argument, and yeah, congratulations to the two teams for making it thus far. So I think first, I might give kudos to Team Ivy for pointing out that the counterfactual in this debate is a word where it's not a word where technology do not exist, because I don't think it's fair on them to argue that there are not going to be technology. I think that's smart argument to say that counterfactual is not no technology at all. We are going to go back to old days. I think it limits most of those impacts we get from opposition in terms of, oh, are you able to reach back to lost friend? I think they say we still have alternatives like phone call. What we want to talk about is like how you weaken community bond and social interactions that you better do. I must give kudos to the other Ilorin team, I think Team Ilorin I, for telling us quite a number of things. Beautiful an argument, and I must refer to the last judge who says like we need to show us why those arguments are like the most important thing. So we largely agree that human interaction is very rampant in this part. I think your argument on how you how you work well, but secondly, your arguments on how this enable you to reach out to old friends were beautiful arguments that we could credit in today's debate. So a form of general feedback in just 30 seconds now. One, I think you need to prove to us why, like when you say the form of depression is not because of social media. I think this guys already says social media causes this because one, you seek to get validation and how you can bully. I like the fact that you talked about regulation, beautiful arguments, but I just think most of those arguments were tied. You need to tell us, like I told the previous team, why your arguments are really, really important in the debate. So going on in future rounds to the both team, please work on engagement in terms of what is important, but secondly, like characterizations are important. So and I must credit the other team for saying, oh, our counterfactual is no tech at all. I think that's a very beautiful responses to the argument. But yeah, fair from both teams, and congratulations to both teams.
A very big thank you to our judges. Thank you, Taye, for your feedback and remarks. Thank you so much, judges, for listening to our debaters and for providing very, very important feedback and remarks to them. Well done, debaters. All the best. We'll go on a short break, after which we'll go straight to the last round for today, for the elimination round 2, actually. The topic for debate is education funding must integrate moral education alongside literacy and numeracy education. We'll have two teams from the University of Benin debating this topic. We'll be back.
The Youth Leadership Debate is a program that provides the platform for young people to use their voices and knowledge to drive conversations for national development. It is an initiative of the Nigeria Youth Futures Fund, NYFF, implemented by Leap Africa in collaboration with the MacArthur Foundation and the Ford Foundation. The 2022 Youth Leadership Debates also aims to give confidence to the voice of young people and leveraging on it as an effective tool to cause a transformed Nigeria. Its goal is to provide capacity building to young people across tertiary institutions and support them to critically evaluate information, advocate from the point of knowledge, and to collectively shape their future of Nigeria. The conversations led on the platform of the Youth Leadership Debate goes on to equip the contestants with needed knowledge to be active citizens leading a change. The NSAS protest of 2020 showed that young people can speak with one voice and cause a change. The Sorosoke movement, which means to speak up in Yoruba language, a ripple effect of young Nigerians' resistance to police brutality through the NSAS protest, was an eye-opener for government, the youth, and development agencies. Now, while it is important to encourage young people to Sorosoke, they must be guided to do it the right way. More so, institutions of higher learning have a leading role in providing solutions to the myriad of challenges facing society, cutting-edge research and innovative activities. Universities are places where young people are equipped to engage in intellectual debates that have national relevance and to provide solutions to socio-economic issues. So, Leap Africa, through the Youth Leadership Development Programs, build the capacity of young Nigerians in leadership and active participation in the nation's affairs, helping to shape the country's future for long-term development.
Welcome back, debaters, judges, and our viewers. We're about to go straight into the last round of today's debates. And we have two teams from the University of Benin, Team 1 and Team 2, who will be proposing and opposing the motion that states that education funding must integrate moral education alongside literacy and numeracy education. Welcome, debaters. Very quickly, I'll go through the rules of engagement so that we're all familiar and we don't fall short of any of them. Each team would have their first speakers given 5 minutes to introduce their motion, to define key terms, set burdens, establish mechanisms or models if needed, and offer substantive arguments. They'll also be dealing with proposed framework by opposition, clash with the opposition's arguments, and offer their own substantive arguments. The second speakers from both teams will get 3 minutes each to clash, offer substantive new arguments, and defend the first speaker's points, after which both teams will be given 30 seconds each for a cross-examination, where they'll get the opportunity to question and challenge the opposition, ask clarifying questions and clarify arguments, point out weaknesses, seek opportunities for strategic maneuvering, after which both teams will get 1 minute to crystallize the round with closing arguments for their teams. There'll be a timer shown on the screen. Once your time elapses, you get 5 to 10 seconds to finish your statement. Anything outside of that will not be recorded. The penalties for not adhering to those rules of engagement, and the following offenses will attract a penalty of 1 point: inappropriate conduct, objectionable language, severe personal attack on another debater, falsified evidence, proven false by the opponents, irrelevant arguments, unfair tactics, and unfamiliarity with the rules. All the best to both teams. We'll go right into it. Our topic is education funding must integrate moral education alongside literacy and numeracy education. I'll now call on the first speaker from University of Benin Team 2, Jaripe Constance Origomi-san, to give the opening argument for the team. You have 5 minutes. Over to you. Eduje Daniel, I'd like to confirm if Constance is with you. We need your team to go ahead with the opening argument. Please confirm. All right, there seems to be no response from University of Benin Team 2. While we wait for them to get on the stage, we'll go right to the opposition team, University of Benin Team 1, to give us their opening argument, and I'll call on the first speaker, Victoria Oluwatosin Toluwaloju. You have 5 minutes. Over to you.
Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed judges and fellow debaters, we stand before you today to argue the opposition that education funding must integrate moral education alongside with literacy and numeracy skill. By funding,
Hello, Victoria Oluwatosin. We can't hear you anymore. Please let us know if you're having any technical challenges. I see that Jaripe Constance is here. So we'll just give the University of Benin Team 1, the opposition team, some time to get their device together, and we'll go back to them after hearing from the proposition team. Proposition team, please, are you ready for us? We're bringing you up right away. Over to you, Jaripe Constance. Please give us the opening argument for your team.
The Youth Leadership Debate is a program that provides the platform for young people to use their voices and knowledge to drive conversations for national development. It is an initiative of the Nigeria Youth Futures Fund, NY.
All right, welcome back. We had to go on a quick break to give our teams some time to get their devices and network sorted. I believe that both our teams are now back with us and will go right into the debate for the last round of today. University of Benin Team 2 Preposition Team, I'll be calling on you now to please give us your opening argument. Over to you, Jaripe Constance. Please give us your opening argument. You have 5 minutes. Thank you.
Motion that education funding must integrate moral education alongside literacy and numeracy education.
They were not paying attention to you. Did not know that you're using our screen to connect.
Okay.
Hello, Constance. We'll let you start over because we did not hear you up until just now. So we'll restart your time. Please get yourselves together. It's okay. These things happen. Just take a breather. Breathe in, breathe out. We're ready for you. We'll restart your time. You have 5 minutes. Over to you.
Okay. To educate a man in mind and not in morals is to educate men to the society. These are the words of Theodore Roosevelt, 26th President of the United States. Good afternoon, judges, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jaripe Constance Origo Misa, and I'm here to speak in proposition to the motion that education funding must integrate moral education alongside literacy and numeracy education. Moral education refers to the teaching of values and principles that help individuals develop a strong sense of what is right and wrong. Literacy and numeracy education, on the other hand, focuses on developing reading, writing, and mathematical skills. The topic of discourse is that education funding should integrate moral education. There is already budgetary allocation for education, and I'm here to give the profitability of including moral education in our educational system. This brings me to my first point. First is to address the impact of inadequate parental moral guidance on children's development. Parents today get busy wanting to provide the basic needs of their child, be it their food, accommodation, and clothing, thereby neglecting their moral education. And children often learn by observing and imitating what their parents do. Now, if the parents should exhibit unethical behaviors, for instance, now these children will learn this attitude and begin to constitute nuisance in the society. Children tend to report what they learn in school. I can remember very well my younger sister, whenever she's back from school, she always say, my auntie taught me this, my auntie taught me that. It means that children tend to easily report to what the teacher teaches them in school. So schools can step in to provide the consistency and mentorship needed for healthy moral development. Intelligence plus character is a goal of true education, according to Martin Luther King Jr. Secondly, it will shape the child to become better character-wise. One example of a successful implementation of moral education is the moral education policy in the United Arab. One example of the successful implementation of moral education is the moral education policy in the United Arab Emirates, UAE. This policy was introduced in 2016 and it aims to instill values in students which include tolerance, respect, and empathy. For a successful implementation of this moral education policy, the school will have to provide an environment in which these positive values can be taught. In as much as the teachers and students, the teachers and the staffs, we kind of act as a role model for these students. Now, let's look at the primary education. You will agree with me, in our primary school, our teachers stayed with us in our class. And because of fear of being flogged, we will tend to be very quiet. How about secondary education and teacher institution where we don't have anybody to stand with us in our classrooms? Now, how do you tend to comport ourselves? I would say that it is this moral values which are being taught in our schools, what holds students together so that there's no fighting. For instance, I happened to witness two children who were fighting, and I asked one of them, why are you fighting your friend? And they were like, my mother told me that if anybody should hit me, I should hit the person back because it will make me a strong man. Now, imagine if every child goes to school with this attitude. It means that the school will turn to a tug of war. But if moral education is being taught in schools, it will bring unity among the students. Thirdly, it will prepare students for global citizenship. Now, the Global Education Monitoring Report by UNESCO emphasizes the importance of moral education in preparing students to be responsible globally. The report recognizes global challenges such as climate change, poverty, and social inequality, which require a collaborative and holistic approach. Moral education is seen as the cornerstone for nurturing citizens who not only recognize these challenges, but are also equipped to engage with them in meaningful ways. Finally, you will agree with me that in Nigeria, we already teach moral education as part of our school curriculum. Well, it might not even seem to be a well-defined subject. Maybe you have it as a subject like mathematics, but then again, it's being incorporated in our social studies, in our civic education, in our Christian religious studies, and even Islamic religious studies. Now, my team member and I are here to propose that this allocated budget for education, a certain amount can be used to further deepen this aspect of our moral education. This can be done by further training those teachers who are already taking these subject courses. Provide this moral education curriculum. They can be incorporated into those subjects and they can be taught to our students who will even understand them better rather than scrap it out because of there's no for probably. Now, these subjects, CROS for instance, Islamic religious studies, they are religion courses that core values, moral values are being taught. Civic education as well does the same thing. They can be incorporated in our education. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and well done to the first speaker of the University of Benin, Team 2, for your opening arguments. We'll move now to your opposition team to give us their opening argument. I'll be calling on their first speaker, Victoria Oluwatosin Toluwaloju. Over to you. You have 5 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed judges and fellow debaters, we stand before you to argue against the proposition that education funding must integrate moral education alongside literacy and numeracy education. While we acknowledge the importance of moral education, we believe that focusing on literacy and numeracy should remain the core priority in a country facing significant educational challenges and disparities. This will lead me first to the first thing that I would like to say before I go into my point. My opponents talked about the United Arab Emirates, saying that they now apply moral education and it has been very, very successful for them. I would like to remind my audience that this is Nigeria, and Nigeria has diverse cultural beliefs and has diverse culture and beliefs. So what I'm trying to say is this, that it might not be something that it would not be able to work facing the current challenges that we have in our country. This will lead me to what education is. Education is the process of facilitating learning or the acquisition of knowledge and skills. And by funding, we basically mean support and grants. And literacy education helps students apply reading, writing, speaking, and listening skills across a variety of subject areas. Numeracy is the ability to understand and apply and understand mathematical concepts, processes, and skills to solve problems and make decisions in a variety of life situations. By moral education, we mean that a subject that helps the teachers in helping the students in learning value and virtues. Now, addressing basic literacy and numeracy, Nigeria is being faced with daunting challenges, such of which UNESCO, according to UNESCO, it was said that Nigeria has one of the highest rates of out-of-school children in the world. And backing these statistics is obtained from a news made available by African News dated 2nd of September 2022 that shows that 244 million children and youth between the ages of 6 and 18 worldwide are still out of school, with Nigeria, India, and Pakistan having the highest figure of out-of-school children. So channeling resources towards moral education could distract from efforts to improve fundamental skills. Instead of overburdening an already strained education system, we should concentrate on enhancing foundational literacy and numeracy skills to equip students for future success. Secondly, socioeconomic disparities and access to education. Nigeria struggles with significant socioeconomic disparities, leading to unequal access to quality education. Western regions often receive better educational resources, while marginalized communities lack even basic facilities. So it's better that we channel our resources towards equipping what we have already, rather than adding another layer to educational system rather than adding another layer to the educational system that we have, resources should be channeled towards equalizing access to basic education facilities and quality teachers. This would not further lead to a divide. Then we have parents' involvement. Imparting moral values is the responsibility of families and communities. The American Psychological Association in their studies found out that child development emphasized pivotal role that parents play in shaping their children's moral values and character. Through daily interactions, discussions, and role modeling, parents provide a foundation for ethical decision making and social behavior. Their guidance help children internalize values, empathy, and a sense of responsibility, contributing significantly to their moral development. Let's look at teacher shortages. The 2019 National Personnel Audit of Basic Education in Nigeria revealed a shortage of qualified teachers in core subjects such as mathematics and English. This shortage emphasized the importance of prioritizing resources for foundational skills. Nigeria aims to diversify its economy and reduce dependency on oil. Literacy and numeracy skills would play a vital role in workforce productivity and employability because it would provide a foundation to form the basis for acquiring more advanced skills. In conclusion, the Nigerian education system already grapples with a shortage of qualified teachers, inadequate infrastructure, outdated teaching materials, integrated moral education, and so on. I would urge us to look forward towards building a sustainable educational system. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Oluwatosin, for the opening argument for the opposition team. We'll now take the second speaker for the proposition team to give us the supporting arguments. Over to you, Eduje Daniel. You have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon, judges, moderators, my audience. My name is Eduje Daniel, still in support of the motion that education funding must include moral education alongside numeracy and literacy education. I wish to ask us a question. What would Nigeria lose if moral education is better funded? Or would we consider it a win if we come out tomorrow and we hear that the federal government has increased the allocation for moral instruction in our nation today? When we see the increase in crimes and the increase in stealing amongst every sector of the economy, we've seen the increase in cyber crimes. You hear a young person coming out and then they are telling you that the reason why they are engaging in fraud is because someone else from some time past did the same thing to their father, and this is their own way of responding to that person. Is this not a time when we need more than ever the insistence that moral education must be integrated into a normal numeracy and literacy system? Is this not the time? Then it brings me to the first point. Understanding, it helps us understand. Moral education can help us understand our diversity, enhances our unity and progress on the basis of moral education. The diversity of our nation is taught already in civic education, social studies, history of recent, and even geography. But however, on core things like tolerance, in fact, particularly ethno-religious tolerance, is barely taught in schools these days because we need these such topics to come up in our public spaces, in our schools, at a time like this when we know there is increased and heightened ethno-religious tension. This is more than ever a time when we must insist that moral education must be included in the funding of in moral education funding must be included alongside numeracy and literacy education because it is critical to advancing as a nation. It helps us to understand better, relate better with one another in the country. We can easily understand each other's perspectives, each other's points of view. We can do better when we know that this person just has as much right to what I have as much as I do. Then the next point, moral education is key in building every proper democracy and upholding the rule of law. We all know today that if you open the internet and just search questions of demeaning the rule of law or disregarding rule of law in Nigeria, you'll see multiple cases, whether it's from politicians, whether it's from civil servants, public servants, wherever, in every space, you call a person to court and then they undermine your democracy, they undermine the appeal courts, they undermine the high courts by not appearing in court, undermining our rule of law. It's not important at this point in time that we tell them that these things are key. These things are important, that we must uphold our rule of law. How do we do it? We must start it by integrating moral education funding alongside numeracy and literacy education. We must fund it. We must be very intentional, take a holistic approach, a complete approach, teach the very core values, sympathy. We must be very intentional about teaching these things. Integrity. Integrity is a very key thing. Look at the P&ID case, when Nigeria lost $200 million already just to make an appeal for a kid. And then if we even lose the case further at the international court, we are even going to pay another $4 billion. Some persons may even raise the question of funding. But then I'm asking you, we've lost $200 million because of a person's lack of integrity in the public space. We've lost $200 million. Is there any way that $200 million would have done a lot more if we had put it in moral education and taught these people about integrity? We do not be being penny wise and pound foolish by saying there is no money. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Daniel, for your supporting argument. We'll now move on to the opposition team's second speaker to give us their supporting argument. Over to you, Igbinosa Samuel Etinosa. You have 3 minutes.
I would like to remind the proposition team that the debate topic does not talk about whether or not moral education should be accepted. It only speaks about integrating moral education as concerned education funding. And I would like to say that there are other agents of specialization that could manage moral education. We have the family, we have the community, we have the religious body. And I would like to lay out my points. According to the Center for Study of Economics of Africa, CISA Africa, they state that over the past years, basic education in Nigeria has experienced misfilling. On the positive side, school enrollment has increased. However, education outcome remains weak on various indicators of quality and equity. Quality. For example, a report put together by the Global Competitiveness Index in 2015 ranked Nigeria 124th out of 144 countries. Out of 144 countries of the world. Added to that, Van Fleet et al. 2012 says that after making findings, 58.3% of primary school children in Nigeria are not meeting the expected level of literacy and numeracy educational skills, which later specifically puts it out that 65.7% of the students cannot read and 51% lack basic arithmetic skills. This emphasized the need for strong and quality literacy and numeracy of education. Standing on existing protocol, I am Igbinosa Samuel Etinosa, opposing the motion that says educational funding must integrate moral education alongside literacy and numeracy education. And I will lay out my points. By this topic, it demands that moral education gets extra resource allocation as given to literacy and numeracy education. And the question of whether or not Nigeria is ready for this comes to my mind because Nigeria is plagued with a lot of inconsistency presently with our educational sector. First, inadequate infrastructure. First, inadequate infrastructure and funding. The Universal Basic Education Commission, UBEC, reported that 10 million Nigerian students were out of school. Why? This is due to inadequate infrastructure and less funding. If Nigeria thinks about integrating moral education, where would the fund that is not enough for literacy and numeracy education, where will it come from to support moral education? Moving on, a study put together by Pew Research Center showed that Nigeria is one of the most religious diverse countries in the world with a significant population of both Muslims and Christians. So if we are to put moral education in our curriculum or fund moral education, the question of what will be taught will arise. Would the Christian teach that one man, one wife, or would the Muslim teach that one man and a lot of wives? Which one will be taught? And this will lead to inconsistency and inequality. As an SS1 student, I walk into the class and I walked into a Yoruba class. Being that I was in Lagos State, a state that speaks Yoruba, what about the Igbo students in my class? What happened to them? They got turned off. They were like, if they are teaching Yoruba, let them also teach us Igbo. And these are future leaders of tomorrow who can already perceive the inequalities when it comes to integrating moral education. I would end by saying that it is quality over quantity, and that is the main deal. If Nigeria must do literacy and numeracy education, let's do it well before embarking on moral education. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Samuel, for your supporting arguments for the opposition team. Would now go to the proposition team and take their cross-examination. I'll be calling on Constance Jaripe to take the cross-examination for the proposition team. Over to you, Constance. You have 30 seconds.
Okay, thank you very much. I would like to ask my opponents these questions concerning the United areas I mentioned about. Are you saying that we cannot learn something new to develop our country? Should we remain laid back? Secondly, how does teaching moral education affect the number of teachers? Like I iterated earlier on, those teachers who are already taking social studies, civic education, can also teach moral education to these students because they're kind of intertwined together. Thirdly, how about parents who imbibe terrible values of their children? Who would correct them? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Constance. We'll move to the opposition team for their cross-examination. I'll call on Oluwatosin to please give us the cross-examination for the opposition team. You have 30 seconds.
Okay, I'll be taking the cross-examination. So the question, do we need teachers? Are the teachers even enough? For the literacy and numeracy skills that we tend to teach, are the teachers enough? As a university student, I see how one lecturer takes a burden of work that is not even allowing he or she to be effective in the discharge of his duty. And I would like to put it out. When I mention UAE is a country that is already, it's an Arabic country, having similar ideologies and belief, allowing moral education to be able to stand. In Nigeria, we have over 774 ethnic groups and these various bodies. Is it enough? The question about moral education is not bad. The idea is about funding it. Are we capable of doing this? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Samuel, for your cross-examination. Well done to both teams on delivering very interesting and interactive arguments. We'll now go on to the closing argument for this round. I'll be calling on Eduje Daniel for the proposition team to give the final argument. Over to you. You have 1 minute.
All right. My opponent said something. He mentioned marriage. Marriage is a cultural issue. I don't think it's a moral issue. We should leave that to religion and not talk about morality in marriage, whether one wife or multiple wives. I don't think that has to do with morality because there are basic things that are generally accepted as the morality we wish to teach. Things like sympathy, empathy, humanity, teaching kindness, tolerance. Those are the real things that we're talking about here. Integrity, very key values at this very point in time. Also, then I wish to ask you a question. You are saying that there is not enough money to sponsor literacy and numeracy education. So I want to ask you a question. Because a man doesn't have a house, should he not clothe himself? Or because a man's house a man's window is broken, should he not wear clothes? You are saying that because we are having a shortfall in literacy and numeracy education, we should then put resources towards something that's also critical to our national development. Remember what Abraham Lincoln said. He said that the philosophy of today's classroom will be the philosophy of the government in the next. So we must inculcate it into our classroom. We can integrate it into our subject. We must not necessarily bring in new teachers. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Daniel, for your closing argument. We'll now go to the opposition team to give us their closing argument. I believe that will be taken by Oluwatosin. Opposition team, over to you. You have 1 minute.
Yes, I heard my opponent said marriage is not a moral issue, but I would love to ask, on what basis is a society built? It's not built on people coming together. And who are the persons that we are teaching? We're talking about education. These are children of people. These are parents who are giving birth to children. And it's these children that we're going to be teaching morals, isn't it? Anyway, I'm going to be talking about funding, which is the capital reason. And it's the fact that we have 7.2% of our budget going to education, and it is not even enough to cater for the already established system. Currently, we have NGOs and civil organizations like clamoring for the upscaling of education system. And I would like to say that how do we now involve moral education into this into funding? So basically, the opposition would also like to say that moral education can create moral upright citizens, but I would like to firmly say that it should not be prioritized alongside with literacy and education. Rather, it should
All right, thank you very much, Oluwatosin, for giving the closing argument for the opposition team. And with that, we have come to the end of the arguments for today. I'd like to go over to our judges to please give us their remarks and feedback, especially for our debaters. So I'll be calling first Simi Solua for remarks and feedback.
All right. Thank you very much to to the two teams that just went on the proposition and opposition about moral education and integrating it into our educational funding system. It was a very good argument. I enjoyed the debate from start to finish. I mean, I didn't want us to stop, but because of time, we have to like call it a close. But in terms of feedback, I like the way the proposition team was able to use practical examples to cite references of what their points were trying to highlight. Also, the fact that one of the practical examples used was the fact that they referenced UAE. Maybe just a bit of tweak to that would be if you're going to reference an already established economy that has incorporated what you're trying to profile as a solution, maybe bring it closer to home. So try to use more examples in African context so that you can compare two different cultures and how it really relates to us in Africa. Also, it's also good to use more data to like back up the points that you're trying to make. Reference the data you're trying to make, back up more of the points with data rather than just giving the arguments. Give us more of the data to actually support your arguments. And for the proposition team, it was a good argument as well. We're able to see how you were able to reference some of the data that you were given to support your points. We could also see how you were able to tie out your closing statement to the points raised earlier. You also mentioned something about teaching language in the classroom and all of that. So I also struggled to align how it tied to moral moral education, teaching moral education and adding it to educational funding and all of that. But overall, it was a very, very good debate. The two teams did well in time management, except from the very last closing remark that we just listened to. The two teams did very well with time management. The two teams did very well in terms of their poise and comportment and how they were able to structure their arguments from the opening remarks to closing remarks. Thank you very much and good luck.
Thank you very much, Simisoliwa. I would go over now to Tayo Gundare. Please give his feedback and remarks.
Can I confirm if you can hear me? Okay, great. Yeah, so I think this was really an engaging round. I think this round was really, really nice, like the other judge talked about. So quite a number of things I would just point out. First, I think there were a whole lot of unanswered questions in today's debate that you are leaving as a fruit hang um to over 1,000 people that are following or that will listen to these speeches after now. One, like the question on will the country be able to afford this particular place? I think it was a clash in the debate. But secondly, do we have sufficient resources to be able to stand that, or do we have sufficient? Do teachers who already take general courses are able to dish out this particular moral standard? And lastly, what the limits to parents' obligations, or are parents the better actors? I think those were three questions the two teams were not able to answer. But in terms of research work, I might give the first team, like the Uniben one, I think good in terms of good kudos in terms of how you were able to show us examples. I agree with what the last judge talked about, like using Saudi Arabia. You need to use something that we can relate to because of the existence of this debate. But outside that, I think if I just want you to work on, I want the two teams to work on three things. One, refutations, like refuting the most important nuances in the debate. The second thing is in terms of structure, maybe because I think your speeches were all over the place. You need to be structured to tell us what your arguments are. And I think lastly, connections. I think in in subsequent rounds, please have a better connection so it's not going to mess with or it's not going to detach you from all of those things you've put together. Anyways, congratulations to both teams, and yeah, the best team wins.
Thank you very much, judges. All right, we have come to the official end of the round of the debating rounds for today. Our scores are already in, and we are just about ready to announce who our winners are for all the 4 rounds of today, but we'll give our judges a little more time to put in their scores for the final teams that just finished debating. We'll go on a short break, after which we'll be announcing our winners for today. Stay tuned.
The Youth Leadership Debate is a program that provides the platform for young people to use their voices and knowledge to drive conversations for national development. It is an initiative of the Nigeria Youth Futures Fund, NYFF, implemented by Leap Africa in collaboration with the MacArthur Foundation and the Ford Foundation. The 2022 Youth Leadership Debates also aims to give confidence to the voice of young people and leveraging on it as an effective tool to cause a transformed Nigeria. Its goal is to provide capacity building to young people across tertiary institutions and support them to critically evaluate information, advocate from the point of knowledge, and to collectively shape their future of Nigeria. The conversations led on the platform of the Youth Leadership Debate goes on to equip the contestants with needed knowledge to be active citizens leading a change. The NSAS protest of 2020 showed that young people can speak with one voice and cause a change. The Sorosoke movement, which means to speak up in Yoruba language, a ripple effect of young Nigerians' resistance to police brutality through the NSAS protest, was an eye-opener for government, the youth, and development agencies. Now, while it is important to encourage young people to Sorosoke, they must be guided to do it the right way. More so, institutions of higher learning have a leading role in providing solutions to the myriad of challenges facing society, cutting-edge research and innovative activities. Universities are places where young people are equipped to engage in intellectual debates that have national relevance and to provide solutions to socio-economic issues. So, Leap Africa, through the Youth Leadership Development Programs, build the capacity of young Nigerians in leadership and active participation in the nation's affairs, helping to shape the country's future for long-term development.
There's a huge innovation gap on the continent. You have young people who are talented and largely driven by passion, who go into starting enterprises without the requisite skills, knowledge, resources, relationships to be able to take them sustainably.
We couldn't sustain the programs we did. We lacked financial capacity.
It was just at the point where I was almost going to stop the idea.
The SIP, Social Innovators Program, was designed so that we can bridge that gap. We can fill that gap of capacity.
Indirectly, when they invested in me as a young person, they've invested in the over 11,000 plus women that we've been able to empower.
We're able to provide relief materials to over 3,000 inmates.
For just the last 3 years, after being a LEAP fellow, we are able to achieve that goal to the highest level I can think about.
Our vision of Africa is one where our continent's potentials are fully realized through citizens who have cultivated leadership effectiveness, accountability, and professionalism. This is LEAP. Our vision.
The Youth Leadership Debate is a program that provides the platform for young people to use their voices and knowledge to drive conversations for national development. It is an initiative of the Nigeria Youth Futures Fund, NYFF, implemented by Leap Africa in collaboration with the MacArthur Foundation and the Ford Foundation. The 2022 Youth Leadership Debates also aims to give confidence to the voice of young people and leveraging on it as an effective tool to cause a transformed Nigeria. Its goal is to provide capacity building to young people across tertiary institutions and support them to critically evaluate information, advocate from the point of knowledge, and to collectively shape their future of Nigeria. The conversations led on the platform of the Youth Leadership Debate goes on to equip the contestants with needed knowledge to be active citizens leading a change. The NSAS protest of 2020 showed that young people can speak with one voice and cause a change. The Sorosoke movement, which means to speak up in Yoruba language, a ripple effect of young Nigerians' resistance to police brutality through the NSAS protest, was an eye-opener for government, the youth, and development agencies. Now, while it is important to encourage young people to Sorosoke, they must be guided to do it the right way. More so, institutions of higher learning have a leading role in providing solutions to the myriad of challenges facing society. Cutting-edge research. The Youth Leadership Debate is a program that provides the platform for young people to use their voices and knowledge to drive conversations for national development. It is an initiative of the Nigeria Youth Futures Fund, NYFF, implemented by Leap Africa in collaboration with the MacArthur Foundation and the Ford Foundation. The 2022 Youth Leadership Debates also aims to give confidence to the voice of young people and leveraging on it as an effective tool to cause a transformed Nigeria. Its goal is to provide capacity building to young people across tertiary institutions and support them to critically evaluate information, advocate from the point of knowledge, and to collectively shape their future of Nigeria. The conversations led on the platform of the Youth Leadership Debate goes on to equip the contestants with needed knowledge to be active citizens leading a change. The NSAS protest of 2020 showed that young people can speak with one voice and cause a change. The Sorosoke movement, which means to speak up in Yoruba language, a ripple effect of young Nigerians' resistance to police brutality through the NSAS protest, was an eye-opener for government, the youth, and development agencies. Now, while it is important to encourage young people to Sorosoke, they must be guided to do it the right way. More so, institutions of higher learning have a leading role in providing solutions to the myriad of challenges facing society. Cutting-edge research and innovative activities. Universities are places where young people are equipped to engage in intellectual debates that have national relevance and to provide solutions to socio-economic issues. So, Leap Africa, through the Youth Leadership Development Programs, build the capacity of young Nigerians in leadership and active participation in the nation's affairs, helping to shape the country's future for long-term development.
There's a huge innovation gap on the continent. You have young people who are talented and largely driven by passion, who go into starting enterprises without the requisite skills, knowledge, resources, relationships to be able to take them sustainably.
We couldn't sustain the programs we did. We lacked financial capacity.
It was just at the point where I was almost going to stop the idea.
The SIP, Social Innovators Program, was designed so that we can bridge that gap. We can fill that gap of capacity.
Indirectly, when they invested in me as a young person, they've invested in the over 11,000 plus women that we've been able to empower.
We're able to provide relief materials to over 3,000 inmates.
For just the last 3 years, after being a LEAP fellow, we are able to achieve that goal to the highest level I can think about.
The Youth Leadership Debate is The Youth Leadership Debate is a program that provides the platform for young people to use their voices and knowledge to drive conversations for national development. It is an initiative of the Nigeria Youth Futures Fund, NYFF, implemented by Leap Africa in collaboration with the MacArthur Foundation and the Ford Foundation. The 2022 Youth Leadership Debates also aims to give confidence to the voice of young people and leveraging on it as an effective tool to cause a transformed Nigeria. Its goal is to provide capacity building to young people across tertiary institutions and support them to critically evaluate information, advocate from the point of knowledge, and to collectively shape their future of Nigeria. The conversations led on the platform of the Youth Leadership Debate goes on to equip the contestants with needed knowledge to be active citizens leading a change. The NSAS protest of 2020 showed that young people can speak with one voice and cause a change. The Sorosoke movement, which means to speak up in Yoruba language, a ripple effect of young Nigerians' resistance to police brutality through the NSAS protest was an eye-opener for government, the youth, and development agencies. Now, while it is important to encourage young people to Sorosoke, they must be guided to do it the right way. More so, institutions of higher learning have a leading role in providing solutions to the myriad of challenges facing society, cutting-edge research and innovative activities. Universities are places where young people are equipped to engage in intellectual debates that have national relevance and to provide solutions to socio-economic issues. So, Leap Africa, through the Youth Leadership Development Programs, builds the capacity of young Nigerians in leadership and active participation in the nation's affairs, helping to shape the country's future for long-term development.
Am I on? Yes. Welcome back, our judges, our debaters, and of course, our viewers. We are ready to announce the winners for the rounds that we had today. For the first round today, we had Alex Ekweme, Federal University, debate against... Apologies. Okay. For the first round, we had Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University, two teams from Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University. We had Team 1 and Team 2. At the end of their round, Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University, Team 2, had a cumulative score of 9.67. And Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University, Team 1, had a cumulative score of 13.33, making the winners of the first round Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University, Team 1. Congratulations. For the second round, we had Abubakar, apologies, for the second round, we had Based University go up against Alex Ekweme Federal University. At the end of the second round, Based University had a cumulative score of 14.67, while Alex Ekweme Federal University finished with a cumulative score of 11.67, making our winners for the second round Based University Abuja. For the third round, we had two teams from the university. Congratulations to Bayes University. For the third round, we had two teams from the University of Ilorin. We had Team 3 and Team 4. At the end of the third round, University of Ilorin Team 4 finished with a cumulative score of 11.67. And we had the University of Ilorin Team 3 finished with a cumulative score of 14.67, making the winners of that round the University of Ilorin Team 3. Congratulations. Finally, for the just concluded round, the fourth round of today, we had two teams from the University of Benin. We had Team 1 and Team 2. University of Benin Team 1 finished with a cumulative point of 15.00, while the University of Benin Team 2 finished with a cumulative point of 13.00, making our winners for the final round University of Benin Team 1. Congratulations, University of Benin Team 1. And of course, congratulations to all the teams who won today. And a very big well done to every team who has debated on the Youth Leadership Debates Season 2.0. Well done to all our teams. You have done very well. You gave us very interesting, very intellectual and insightful arguments. And we wish you all the very best in the next round of the debate, the quarterfinals. Until we come your way again, would like to appreciate our judges for today. Once again, Simisoluwa Abraham, Taye Oludare, and Kemi Adetore. And of course, all our judges that have supported us throughout the Youth Leadership Debate 2.0. Until we come your way again very soon, stay safe. Thank you very much. It's goodbye for me.
As a people with one song, with one voice, we're a nation undivided and poised. We will take a stand and build our land in faith to defend what is ours.
DivineFlavor.com.
As a people with one heart, for one cause, we're determined to rebuild.